course, if I have the audio on, that helps. How's everybody doing tonight? Big day today. Just waiting for Adrian to come in, just my stupid opinion. If you're not already, if I have the audio, not already subscribed to his channel, sorry about that. If you're not already subscribed to his channel, please go and do so. The link to all those guys' channels who have been helping out so much is down below. And sorry to those of you who missed the stream last night. Hey, Serene. Mercer, what's up? The stream last night, if you missed out, I guess that's too bad. Maybe I could put it on BitChute, I suppose. They hit me with 2 copyright strikes and also banned the video. So you never know. Is there still no sound? I think there's sound now. Should be sound. Evening, Liv. Yes, last night's video got 2 copyright strikes and banned. So, I don't know. What can you do? It's kind of the way it is. If you want to play on YouTube, that's part of the rules. They just ban videos. Hey, Tam, what's up? All right, Adrian's here. Sound is good. Good. What's happening?
Good evening.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Well, big day. Big day. How about you?
It wasn't too bad. Just pretty much work and came home. Big day for you, you're saying?
Well, big day in the news, at least on the first link there is not working. Oh, maybe I have to edit something here. Which is the Tara's GoFundMe? Is that not working? Sure. Hello, friends and family. Aussie, what's going down? We'll fix this. So why don't you tell us about the article you sent us?
Yes. That was kind of interesting I came across today, but because it appears that the widower of one of the Nova Scotia victims is launching a class action gunman lawsuit against Gabriel Wortman's estate. So I think this is the first domino to fall in what will eventually lead into probably this class action lawsuit that we've been trying to push for. I mean, in our case, we were talking about it against the RCMP, but I think it's got to start somewhere. It'll probably start at Wortman's estate, and then as more information comes out, then we actually might see that the RCMP are going to get involved with this. And this would be perfect because we need somebody to start getting involved. So if this is someone that Tara and other families of the victims can reach out to, then we actually are starting to see the snowball starting to fall downhill. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, this is going to be interesting. Sorry, I'm just fixing this here. There we go. Should be working fine now. Nova Scotia, widower of Nova Scotia shooting victim files class action suit against gunman's estate. So it's only filed, it looks like, just against Wortman, though. Class action against gunman's estate.
Yes, so this would be strictly speaking going against Wortman and his estate, but I think it has potential. I think that as time will go on, because again, you were talking about discovery being a big part of something. I think this will lead into more and more. For instance, it's like we could probably get more information available. The RCMP will have to testify, most likely, I think. And then I think as time goes on and as the lawyers begin pushing more and more, we'll begin to see the failure of the RCMP. And if that's the case, I mean, this widower, he's going to win this lawsuit against Gabriel Wortman's estate. That's pretty much an open and shut case. But I think that if the lawyer wants to press even just a little bit, we'll be able to see where there was where the failure of the RCMP was. I think it's going to get more details out to people such as you and me looking into this. Mm-hmm. And then it's also going to be the possibility for someone, say Tara or another one of the victims' families, that want to actually launch their own lawsuit against the RCMP. So I was very excited when I ended up seeing that.
Yes, no, it's big news in the sense that, yes, you know, at least they're going to start the legal process. It is a bit disheartening that the RCMP aren't named as co-defendants with Wortman's estate. I'm going to make a prediction here, and my prediction would be that there's going to be an application for a media ban.
I get the feeling you're right on that. And that was something I was fearing the most out of this. I mean, we even saw that take place in the Fredericton shooting. They put a publication ban on what was on the information that was coming out for at least a good week or more. And I think it's most likely it's going to be the same thing. They're going to use it under the disguise of, you know, it's for the sake of the families. You know, we don't want all this attention on them. We don't want the media asking them questions, you know, harassing them. But I really think the main reason that it's going to be a publication ban is because it's going to be requested for by the RCMP, and then they're going to be make sure the details don't get out. But the real reason is because they're trying to cover up their tracks with everything that's going to happen, and they're going to tell the judge, "Oh, this is an ongoing investigation. You know, we can't have the public knowing all these details till they've all been ironed out yet." I know CERT is still doing their investigation into the RCMP officers that were involved as well. But the whole reason behind it is just going to be for them, once again, to cover their own tracks. It's just for them to deny any sort of involvement, any sort of failures on their part. I mean, we already see how they're pushing for it. They're harassing certain people about what's going on. They're clearly watching the streams with people that are going out and the videos that are coming out about it. They're clearly trying to intimidate people who are involved in this investigation. So this is going to be the real reason why they're going to push for this publication ban. You're absolutely right on that.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not sure if they can amend the suit later. I mean, that's a pretty major amendment to make to add further defendants. It probably would have to be a separate suit filed against the RCMP. And frankly, you know, just with my little legal expertise knowledge, I would file equally against the government, both the provincial and federal governments as co-defendants.
Yeah, why the provincial government? I can understand the federal government considering they're sort of the overseers of the RCMP, but why the provincial government?
Because they're in charge of the emergency management office or management or whatever it's called, the EMO.
Oh, so okay.
I think they have the ability to supersede the RCMP and actually just issue the alert. Mm-hmm. But they kept just sitting and waiting on it. So I think there's more that they could have done. Again, I don't think this is about necessarily, you know, a crucifixion, but it's about uncovering the truth and the missing 3-year-old Paul. I think that they turned up, I believe. That's just my thinking. But I think that if they're going to go down this road, this lawyer doesn't sound like he wants to even go in this direction. I've actually spoken to a couple of lawyers down at Patterson Law, just on Tara's behalf for something else, but the other thing, her estate stuff, but not this particular lawyer. But he does say here, where is it? I know that the lawsuit won't bring back any of those senselessly murdered. However, there must be accountability for this tragedy. And he also says, I understand that everyone, including the RCMP, were victims in this man's rampage. So he's kind of giving a pass.
A pretty low bar pass, if you ask me. But yeah, he's given them a pass. And people are saying like the girlfriend isn't going to be named in this. And I doubt they would have been able to pull that off, even if they wanted to. Because, I mean, technically she's a victim too. If we're going on the official story, she was tied up and then she had to flee Wortman, even though he didn't kill her. So I couldn't see that she would actually be named in this lawsuit. She could have very easily gotten out of that. Funny thing though is the RCMP did it again. Yet it did it once again today. Did you hear about the situation in PEI?
No, I did not.
Oh, yes. No problem. I'll share my screen with you because I got the article pulled up.
Awesome.
So, apparently today in PEI RCMP note heightened fear in response to armed barricaded man. RCMP are thanking the residents of Surrey's PEI after their quick response to an armed and barricaded man on Friday. The incident occurred in the shadows of last month's Nova Scotia shooting that left 22 people dead, with the PEI RCMP acknowledged in the press release. We recognize that the recent events of the neighboring province have heightened our levels of fear, and your patience was very much appreciated. Now, what this is all about, and when I said they did it again, is because they were giving updates on this through their Twitter account. The RCMP PEI is what was giving the updates to the people. They didn't go to the news again. They didn't end up sending out an emergency alert. They once again just said, we're just throwing out the updates on Twitter. No big deal. I mean, it didn't look like anybody, nobody seemed to be killed. I don't even think the person involved in that ended up getting killed. But let me just double check that again. Standoff continues shortly after 11 p.m. Yeah, so the man did surrender without further incident after 11 p.m. Now, that was yesterday. But we already went through this with them, with what happened in Nova Scotia is how they're giving the updates on Twitter. They're not informing people about this situation, about how there's an active gunman. Now, in this situation, at least he was barricaded in. He was in one position, so it's a lot safer. But you figure they would have learned from the criticism that they end up getting, and if there's a lawsuit for them against the RCMP because they refused to give the emergency alert, didn't tell the news, and didn't give proper warning to people what was going on, then this is just as much unacceptable. I mean, we're not living in a place such as Chicago where shootings like this happen every single day. We're not even talking about places like Toronto where this is still happening almost every single day. These are small provinces. These are small towns in Nova Scotia, PEI. I can't. This would be a place, if anything, you would get this emergency alert, because especially in a case of something like Wortman, because that was a guy who was clearly targeting people. He knew people in the area, and he was dressed up as a cop, which gives him more of an in with a lot of people. But once again, they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't give the public the proper information that this was going on. Because once again, I didn't even know this happened until after the fact. I didn't see this article until today, and that's when I figured out that yesterday there was a situation.
Yeah, and we also had an incident here in Alberta, in Black Falls, with the RCMP, and there was no Amber Alert sent on that one. And again, they used Twitter. So the one incident that they've used Twitter on apparently was for the construction site and airsoft gun or BB gun. But in 3 shootings, they choose not to use PEI. So that's a month that they've been involved in shootouts, and they're not informing the public. But when there's a construction site the next day, and there's going to be some news coming out, they choose to use the Amber Alert. This is kind of funny.
It is, and I don't know about you, but the fact that we're having 3 incidents like this in such a short period of time kind of makes me a little suspicious. This is not the type of thing that happens in our country, and yet suddenly in less than a month, yeah, under a month, we have 3 separate incidents where the RCMP need to be called, involving what is either someone an active shooter, or is involving someone who is a threat of being an active shooter. So I don't know. At this point, I'm starting to get a little suspicious, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Another thing, oh, sorry, my mind is actually just skated there for a moment. The RCMP are not, I don't think, going to disclose anything further, especially now because of the lawsuit. I think they're really going to clam up. I think that was bound to happen anyways, because the more that they say, the more that they're sticking their foot in the mouth. But there equally is less attention being paid to it. So I'm kind of glad that this man at least has launched a lawsuit, in the sense that even though he didn't name the RCMP, which clearly they're negligent. I can't for the life of me see where they're not. The more and more I look at this, the more it's becoming more apparent that they're negligent on multiple fronts, whether it be the alert or the barricades that Mr. Wortman is getting through, or the access to these uniforms / cars / possibly guns, their knowledge of him beforehand, everything, like the destruction of crime scenes. I don't know. The list is never ending, and these people want to seemingly protect themselves. Is that your take on it too?
I can't really disagree with what you're saying. It seems this is the thing that's kind of made me a little sick, I guess, with watching the way the RCMP has handled the shooting in Nova Scotia. Is the way they present it to the public is that, they're doing an investigation, we're trying to figure out what's going on. But when you're reading between the lines, it's quite clear that they don't care about the people who were killed. They don't care about the victims who are now dealing with the repercussions of that. All they care about is covering their themselves, making sure that they're safe, their bases are covered for everything, all the negligence that they did throughout this case. And that to me is kind of sickening. I can't think of anything worse than having a group of people who turn a tragedy for dozens of families, hundreds of people in their community, and thousands across the nation, turn it into the all about themselves, all because they didn't do their job properly. So no, you're absolutely right in your analysis of it. It's all about protecting themselves. It's all about the RCMP and maintaining the image. It has nothing to do with getting to the truth or trying to get justice for the people who have been wronged and the people who have been killed in this situation.
Yeah, and I was digging around a little bit more last night into some stuff that I just kind of been searching around for RCMP corruption type stuff, and I played some videos last night. And that video, I played Steve's video. So there's a variety of reasons that something happened last night, but that video got 2 copyright strikes and banned, which nice. I find rather interesting. Yeah, I think that's 3 so that's pretty good. I've never had one quite that bad, I don't think. But they, I was talking a lot about the pedophilia and the murders that the RCMP seemingly may possibly be involved with. Again, it was just speculation and relating some people's stories. I don't know. Have you dug into any of that at all?
About the RCMP corruption? With this situation that ended up happening in Nova Scotia and their response, I actually decided to start looking into it. So I started saving a few articles here and there and looking a little bit into the type of things that they've done. I can't say offhand I've come across things that have to do with them committing murder, But that also wasn't exactly one of my focus. I was kind of just doing a generic search for RCMP corruption, to which I found articles about like internal probes where they found hundreds of cases of police corruption, and then the type of harassment that is happening to a lot of even their own officers, but a lot of the members of the public as well. So I have started to take notice of this for sure.
Yeah. Have you come across, what else have you come across? I'm interested to hear.
Talking about that, let's see. There was an article out of the Globe and Mail. It was from a few years ago, back in 2017. It seemed to be talking more about the type of culture that is involved with the RCMP. So one thing, because again, talking about some of the harassment that happens in their own people, a lot of it has to do with the hazing that new recruits are going through. And there was one, like, you kind of hear about the one about how some female officers are sexually harassed and stuff. In one situation, there was a training that was happening for a female officer where it was like, it was sort of for ceremonial situation. You dress up in the red serge and you're riding around the horses. Apparently, she ended up getting assaulted during one of these training exercises. She was like literally dragged through horse manure. So there's been it was a really nasty situation.
Can you relay a little bit more of that? I'm not aware of that at all.
That was a few years
like
ago.
A shitty story altogether.
Really? Puns?
Come on, I gotta try here.
No, fair enough. I would have made the exact same joke in your situation. This was an article. I actually remember seeing it a while ago, even before this situation ended up here. It was like, I don't know, a few years ago. I was just reading the paper. But she was launching a lawsuit against the RCMP. She actually ended up quitting the RCMP because of this situation that took place. She kind of dealt with some harassment. But in this situation, she was like assaulted, dragged through horse manure, and it actually messed her up a lot that she ended up leaving the RCMP and ended up launching a lawsuit against them for what she had to deal with while it was in there. I'll see if I can dig it up.
Yeah, I think if we, I know you have access to my book. Maybe we can start a folder on that.
Sounds good.
Or if you've got one going, that's awesome, of just all these different cases.
I've started to. I found that once you shared your book there, I really liked the sort of layout for it, so I made my own.
If you can explain to me how to use it, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
I find articles often disappear off of there. I don't know if that's just me being like super tinfoily, or I don't know if it's just bad saving, that sometimes they don't always appear. But it's got some nice options, at least, that you can highlight, and you can. And I know that there are a lot of things in that I don't understand. Like you can add videos, you can add different things all in there.
Oh, okay. So I did find the article of this officer. Apparently, she didn't leave the RCMP, but she did launch a lawsuit against them. So the National Post, RCMP officer alleged she was dragged through horse manure by male Mounties, settles lawsuit. Caroline O'Farrell is still with the RCMP, but she's been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and suffers from severe psychological distress, including flashbacks. A female Mountie who alleges that she was subjected to humiliation and demeaning hazing, bullying, and sexual abuse at the hands of some of the male members of the National Police Force's famed musical ride has reached a settlement with the RCMP, according to her lawyer. Staff Sergeant Caroline O'Farrell launched her multi-million-dollar lawsuit 4 years ago, alleging harassment that included being the subject of a suicide pool and repeated horse troughings, where she was dragged through manure and urine after being named one of the first female members of the iconic traveling equestrian show in 1986. Internal investigations substantiated over 120 events of abuse and harassment, but the perpetrators received little in the way of any consequence, and O'Farrell was simply removed from the ride, according to her lawyer. So she's abused, and then she's punished, and she is removed from the ride.
Wow.
Yes.
And then, of course, we get the $200 million settlements for two separate class action suits for sexual harassment, large-scale sexual harassment, 1,100 women in one case. And then,
jeez, was it that high?
yeah, no, they're big. And of course, while the RCMP, I'm just kind of looking at it right now, just a little bit here. While the RCMP has not fully admitted liability, these people, they just can't. They just can't accept responsibility. And this is not a good thing to show children or the rest of society. They're supposed to be above and beyond all this.
They're supposed to be, but unfortunately, they actually seem to be worse off than a lot of the. They seem to be worse off than a lot of even the local or even provincial police forces when it comes to this sort of thing. Like, and that's a shame because, like, whenever one thing that is most iconic about Canadians has to be the Mounties in the Red Surge riding a horse. That is actually something that has now been trounced upon. It has been corrupted. It has been turned into something that's actually kind of disgusting to be associated with our country through acts such as this. And I think one of the problems with it is that I've said before that there seems to be a mentality with the type of people that tend to become cops. Not all, but a lot of them, are people who enjoy the power, having the power they have over people. And I think this probably triples or more when it comes to the Mounties because, they're the elites, the top of the top, the highest police force in Canada, most likely supposed to be the best of the best when it comes to cops. And I think this gives them a false sense of superiority. And because of that, they're committing acts such as this, and they think they can get away with it. They think there's going to be no repercussions. And one of the reasons is because there have been no real repercussions for a lot of them. I mean, how often do you really hear of a Mountie getting fired, whether that's for corruption, for abuse? Like, I remember even a few years ago, there was a story of a local police officer here in Ottawa, and he had a few different situations of excessive force. And one of the one that he was in the paper for was because apparently they were doing there was a situation that ended up unfolding. I think they were like raiding a house or like invited into a house and were breaking up like sort of a drug party that was going on. And there was this woman who was like cowering in the corner because she was like, scared or something, probably kind of like, tweaked out as well. And the cop was telling her, get up, let's go. And she wasn't listening. So he pulled out his taser and just tased her right where she was. And he, even then, with this situation and past histories of excessive force, he only ended up getting, I think his worst punishment was like 60 days suspension. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was a suspension with pay. So he pretty much got a 60-day paid vacation. And if this is what's happening to local PD, you can imagine the lack of repercussions at the top for the RCMP. They can practically get away with murder and they don't do anything about it. Just the other day, actually, a friend of mine who's a business owner was telling me that his store was broken into. And they eventually, through some investigation work of themselves and like a few other people, like their customers who were like loyal customers, they eventually found out who it was. They had text messages between the two perpetrators that were saying, we're breaking into this store. They were selling their product online, their product that had their label on it, so they could prove when it happened, who did it, and that they had their product that they were selling for themselves. Reported all to the police. Nothing happened because one of the perpetrators was the son of a cop.
Wow.
Nothing happened. No arrests. All the evidence right there. Literally all they had to do was go pick them up, say, we got everything we need to, we already have everything. No investigative work that need to be done, but it was the son of a cop.
Goodness. Yeah, no, this stuff, I don't know. Something's got to be cleaned up. I'm just, remembering some other stuff here. Mountie acquitted in this case. I'm not going to. This is a Kansky case. This was the case in the Vancouver airport taser case.
Oh,
And
yes.
this RCMP officer who was acquitted for lying then turned around and sued the RCMP and said, "You guys are throwing me under the bus." He's still with the RCMP also. I was trying to find the case of there was a husband and wife couple. It's on YouTube. CBC did a special on it about this couple who are in the RCMP, and they're suing the RCMP. So like the RCMP clearly have like a lot of problems, a lot of serious problems. And that red surge that you talk about, yeah, I mean, it was so, and the musical ride and everything, it's so iconic, it's so identifiable to Canada, and it has absolutely been run through the mud. And frankly, you know, though that's politically not correct, I don't give a shit. That you know, when they started with the turban nonsense and you don't have to wear the typical felt hat, right? And said, oh, RCMP can just wear the turban. I'm like, no, that's not, you know, you're taking something that's cultural, that is Canadian, and you're absolutely destroying it. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm no fan of it because, like, I understand that they, like, for instance, the turban, like, the Sikhs have religious reasons that behind it, and it's fine if they want to wear a turban in there in Canada. That's absolutely fine. But I don't think that what is uniquely Canadian culture has to take a backseat to what's their preference. Either they can adapt to it, or you don't get to be a part of it. So if you're, say, a Sikh who wants to wear your turban, which means you don't get to, you're not going to be wearing, say, the hat that the Mounties wear, then unfortunately you don't get to do it. I mean, this was even, the rules have changed now, but in the Canadian forces for a long time, you couldn't have a beard. Now they let you have a beard, but it's got to be like a very small beard. But that was different for people if they had a beard for religious purposes, people like, say, Muslims, as an example. So it was like,
You'd have a problem.
What's that?
You'd have a problem.
Yeah, I would. Oh, yeah, I absolutely would. If I tried to get in the forces right now, they would tell me I'd have to keep it nice and clean shaven. I think it's like probably where it can't be grabbed. Like mine can be grabbed right now, and my guess it has to be short enough that it can't be for combat purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But for the longest time, it was like, okay, but there was a requirement to be in the forces. But they said, no, we're going to put that aside for these specific people. It's the same thing. You can, while you're out and about, you can absolutely have whatever religious symbols you want or whatever facial hair, whatever head covering you want. But if you're not, you feel that Canadian culture needs to change in order to adapt to you, then you're in the wrong place and you're in the wrong business, and we shouldn't be willing to fold for that. So I've never been a big fan of it. There was even that was even something not quite down the same road. But Doug Ford, like a year or two ago, he ended up it's a law in Ontario that if you're going to be riding a motorcycle, you have to wear helmets. Well, he actually ended up changing that. He was like, oh, there are a lot of Sikh bikers, especially in like areas, I think like Brampton is one of them. Mm-hmm. And well, if you have
a you don't say.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? But he pretty much said it's just like he's like, oh yeah, but if you're Sikh and you need to wear a turban, you don't have to wear a helmet anymore. So it's like, so if I go on a motorcycle, I need to have a helmet, but if I put on a turban, then no problem. So it's a rule for thee, but not for me type situation, and I've never been a big fan of that. I'm sure you're not either.
No, I when in Rome, do as the Romans. I never understood why our society has to cave. Some people know I lived in Vietnam for a long time, and you have to kind of, I'm not going to go to their country and tell them what to do. I mean, I'm sorry, I skated off into a topic that probably we should be focusing on what's going on down in Nova Scotia. But I am curious because the RCMP has gone downhill, and what they represent, either in just even appearance or the public's perception of what the RCMP is and how they're dealing with their stuff is not it's not what it once used to be. And I don't frankly think, the more I'm looking at this, that the RCMP were always on our team, so to speak. Maybe once upon a time, but it hasn't been that way for a long time. They are a huge bureaucracy unto themselves that will admit no fault, that can do anything and everything, represents the law, but is above the law.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, the fact that there's, I think if nothing else, what proves that the RCMP aren't truly there to uphold the law like they try and claim is there have been legitimate crimes that politicians have been caught in. And has any RCMP officer ever tried to bring charges against them? No, they don't. The problem with a lot of police forces, local, federal, provincial, in all countries all over the world, is how these days they actually are getting more complicit when it comes to organized crime. They take their cut, whatever that might be, maybe some drugs, maybe some money, in order to look the other way. And it's been like that for a long time, like pretty much ever since a form of police force has ever been around. But it seems to me like it's getting worse these days because they're still engaged with that sort of activity. They are, they don't do anything actually like to bring charges against some of the most corrupt people in our society, politicians. And then on top of that, they go out and they harass citizens for the most menial things. Like, did you see the video from just a few days ago of it was on the 4th of May? The stormtrooper got arrested.
Yeah, I was talking about that last night.
Like, for
I didn't even know about it, but I've been so out of it. But
yeah, that came to my attention not too long ago, and they've got 3 officers with one of them had a shotgun, guns drawn, for clearly someone in a costume from well-known and well-loved movie series. And they're trying to actually pretend like her gun, her blaster, was a real gun. That doesn't even look like a damn real gun. But they still arrested her, still took her down, still handcuffed her. They still harassed the people that were taking video footage of it. They still then tried to position their cars so that way anybody grabbing videos couldn't do it anymore, couldn't see anything. It's ridiculous. And I think she still ended up actually getting arrested. Like, I think she was actually booked and brought down to the station. So it's just, this is what police forces have turned into. We expect better from the RCMP because that's sort of the way that they've always been presented. The top of the top, the elite of the elite, the best police force in Canada. But if anything, they've actually proved the opposite. They're more corrupt than local police forces. They're more corrupt than provincial police forces. And they have not been doing their jobs for a damn long time. And it's about time that they actually answered to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly's joining late, and I'm sure a couple of people have. So it's Beaton's husband filed suit against just Wortman's estate. I liked how in this article, Saltwire, who has actually been doing some pretty decent work, they were the ones that came up with that leak from Halifax PD, which I wanted to kind of get your feel on about the officer who kind of spilled the beans about certain things, about that they couldn't go to the airport and stuff like that. I don't know if we've discussed that yet. But Saltwire has actually been doing some decent work. But of course, they go into this nonsense here about can't talk about who his name is or show his picture or show pictures. And it is above and beyond just the name and his picture, which they say is notoriety. I mean, he is fucking notorious. He's a killer. I mean, didn't we have killers in the old day, Billy the Kid and et cetera, et cetera? I mean, they have names. And why can't you call them by their names? I think that, again, is just more psychological warfare to put them in the past. But Saltwire and other press places And even I've noticed in Google, I think you concur on that. Let me know what your thoughts are, but about the burying of crime scene photos and video. And Saltwire specifically has come out and said, listen, we won't show those unless it's absolutely necessary.
I mean, like, he's clearly, from when even we've done Google searches, they are trying to bury the evidence. Photos that were there that were there a couple weeks ago have now been taken off. I think they should show the photos. I mean, you can put whatever you want. You can put a warning on it, you know, like graphic photos, whatever you want. But I think it's important because especially in a situation like this where the RCMP are trying to bury the details, it's important that people have as much evidence as possible. And it's clear, I think, a lot of people, that even people working for like Saltwire and other publications, that there are going to be people that are looking into it for themselves. So by publishing the evidence, as long as it's not breaking any sort of legal requirements, then I think they should do it, because it's at least making that information available, even if it's on a smaller platform that people are less familiar with. At least it's out there on the internet for people to find, for people to share. If those are videos, then perfect. If they're photos, perfect. But I think they actually should show this. And I, for a little while, kind of bought into the whole thing about, like, well, don't name them. But at the end of the day, especially when you kind of look at what these killers really do, a lot of them are really not doing it for media sensation. Maybe a few you could look at and say, sure. But I think, like, if we had, say, several years ago, stopped naming the people who do mass shootings, serial killers and all of them, this wouldn't have stopped Gabriel Wortman from doing what he was doing. He clearly had ulterior motives than just he was looking for some attention from the press. So I don't think actually not naming them does anything. I think it actually, the worst part is that it's more difficult for people to actually bring these up and like talk about them, because it's harder to find the evidence of this situation. And the thing is the more and more this happened, the more and more people realize there are problems. So I think they should publish the evidence so it's out there for independent investigators to find. And it doesn't really do anything by not naming the mass shooters. All it does is it makes it more difficult for people to talk about it, to point to these situations, and it just makes people live in more ignorance, because now people don't realize how often something like this happens. So I'm not a big fan of either of that. I don't know about your opinion on
it. I think it is just so that it goes out of the spotlight and then people forget about it. And Steve, I don't know if you spoke to Steve today at all or not. I haven't heard from him, but he was speaking to an individual about stuff, and they were very willing to talk about things. In fact, they agreed to do an interview with all three of us.
Oh, yes.
And then the next day, silence.
Oh, no, he didn't mention that. I talked to him last night, where we were talking a little bit, like maybe for like 10 minutes or so. I gave him a call, and I was kind of asking a few questions about that. And I don't know if maybe if something, like some of the questions he asked sort of threw him off, because I think I kind of asked him a few questions about that individual, and then I know that he kind of turned around and did ask him. Maybe it was a couple days ago actually that I called him. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if maybe they found the streams and they don't like what we're talking about, or whether they think that this is supposed to be a gotcha interview. But hopefully they're willing to come on, because there's, either way, for better or worse, I think it's going to blow some holes in the official narrative. Yeah.
And I was but I think it goes along with this business that there's just utter silence. The silence is deafening. Mm-hmm. Deafening for the apparent hundreds of people, because you figure that what did they say? 100 people, anyways, lived on Portapic Beach Road, and they said 400 in the neighborhood of 460. Is that right? Witnesses that they have,
something like that. Yeah, it was definitely in the 400 mark that they said.
and the only person to speak is Clinton Ellison, who they then CBC will subsequently go back and scrub his article, or scrub his interview, which is disgusting. I don't understand how a media outlet can do that. That person is a witness, and they're voicing their feelings and their firsthand. CBC wasn't there, and they openly criticized the RCMP. That's the only one person that has come forward at all that I'm aware of.
It's almost like the CBC is more of a propaganda arm, isn't it?
Possible, maybe, just maybe. Right, because there's that second time that they did that too was also in the live stream of the, and I know I've spoken about this again, sorry if I'm just repeating to other people, but the live stream of the 28th press briefing.
The update, yeah.
And they took out the 4 kilometer bit about the rate. Like, he doesn't say openly radius, but he says 4 kilometers. And I think you can basically deduce that they had immediately locked it down, according to the National Post, heavily locked down, according to them. And that would be 4 kilometers. So he's not just getting through. I don't think it's a leap to say he's not just getting through the one at the end of the road. He's also getting through other ones. He's not driving around these people. He's not doing anything like that. He's, come on through, sir. You know, you're one of us. And so they're negligent on this. 485 potential witnesses. Thank you, Loretta. So in total silence, total and utter silence. Scary.
No, it is scary for sure. I mean, it seems to me at a certain point you're actively trying to silence people. And I mean, the CBC's been guilty of editing past articles without really telling you. They've been guilty of editing interviews. They're even guilty of, like, they usually don't have their in live streams, they usually don't have their chat available. But on their more, if you want, controversial videos, they make sure they shut down the chat so that way you can't comment about the problems that they're actually reporting on. So they've been guilty of this. And then with everything that we already know that kind of Tara's gone through, I've no doubt that a bunch of these people are being told to shut the hell up by the police. And they're probably being threatened with legal
Yes.
action. Be like, oh, you know, it's an active investigation. Any sort of information you give out could be, you know, could affect the investigation. In that case, you know, you'll be guilty of obstruction of justice, blah, 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 blah. So all these people get scared and are like, oh, you know, I don't want any problems with the RCMP. I've already lost my brother, my wife, my sister, whoever, my parents. So they're like, I can't deal with this right now. So I'm just going to shut my mouth for now. But it's good to see that there were a few that were willing to speak up. I mean, Clinton Ellison, I don't know if he's had another interview since that one with the CBC, but since that interview where he criticized them, he's been pretty quiet from what I can tell.
Well, his Facebook is deleted.
Yeah.
He had a Facebook, and this is, I've come across this time and time again. I don't know about you, but I know that he did have a Facebook. It's referenced in multiple media outlets that he had a Facebook, and he had posts on there about all this. All of a sudden, poof, his Facebook is gone. Not just that the articles are gone, the Facebook is gone. And he's not the only one. You're saying you've come across other people who have spoken out other than Mr. Ellison?
No, I'm saying that the CBC has definitely altered like articles and like videos in the past. But no, I'm saying that the point is that the ones who have come out and said something suddenly seem to be silent later on. So no, I haven't actually come across anyone else besides for like Clinton Ellison. And then there was what's her name? There was the witness, Darcy Sachs, who just disappeared into everything. Disappeared and once again didn't do any more interviews aside for it seemed to be that one with CBC.
Yeah.
And then suddenly don't hear anything from them.
Yeah.
I think that's the main reason they're being told to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'd have to go back and look for a few things, but I wouldn't be surprised that some of these videos that we have downloaded right now are gone. that you won't find them online. Like maybe the video of the when it was like that couple behind the tactical unit where the cars are on fire, and they're like, it sounds like they said they just killed a cop right in front of us, or he just killed a cop right in front of us.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that one's gone, but I haven't exactly gone looking for it. But even social media, it's the same thing. I mean, within a day or two of the shooting, nobody seemed to be talking about it anymore. And I don't think it's the fact that people aren't talking about it. Because I know that on Twitter and Facebook, there are people, like, even if they don't get on YouTube to talk about this sort of thing, they're good, like, investigators, and that's where they post their stuff. I would not be surprised in the slightest if these are also being pushed down by Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, just to make sure that you don't get the information out. Hell, even you go and you do keyword searches on Twitter or Facebook,
yep.
You don't really have much that comes up when it comes to Wharton or Nova Scotia shooting anymore. And that to me was suspicious. Not even like a history of this stuff. It's just there's just almost next to nothing these days, aside for posts that came out on like the 20th, maybe the 23rd. But I don't know. Every time I go looking, it's nothing recent.
No, it's not. I mean, and the keyword search, the searches all around are very difficult now. But I'm just looking for the article that there is a more mainstream article about, and I wanted to hear your opinion on this, because they have come forward and said they know who the two RCMP officers are. They are being investigated by CERT at this point in time. So there is negligence basically being admitted. I think here's the CBC report. But when you do the search for it, yes, I'm using DuckDuckGo, but nothing comes up. Let's try something else. Let's try Google. I'll just flash over to that. Have you read that article yet?
I think it's the one you sent me. Where was it? I should have it open. Confusion over cruiser, safety vest led RCMP to shoot at person who wasn't Nova Scotia gunman.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I took a read through that one.
Yeah, so, here they're saying, listen, just because you wear a traffic vest and you drive a cruiser, that makes you open season on you.
It kind of seems that way.
Yeah. I mean, this is craziness we're talking about here. It was a total OK Corral. I mean, they were just bullets flying everywhere, and they had no idea who they were shooting at, even according to Curran, the head of CERT, or the head of the CERT investigation, which I wasn't aware. Somebody pointed out to me last night, and I just had kind of skimmed the article, and I didn't read thoroughly enough. All of the people involved in CERT, even the two civilians, are RCMP or police. You have one Halifax Police Department, one currently serving, one current serving RCMP officers, and two civilian RCMP members retired with 33 years of experience. Is this an independent body, or is this a police body that's investigating police?
Oh, it's quite clear from this that it's a police body investigating police, which is why I want to let all police officers know is that I will now police myself. Don't worry. You don't got to worry about me. If I commit a crime, I promise you I will come forward and let you know. That's all I got to say.
Are you going to take a timeout in the corner?
That seems appropriate for, a triple homicide. But this is pretty much what they're doing to themselves. You can't trust this sort of thing. Like, the whole idea that we as an organization committed a crime, so we will look into each other ourselves and we will punish ourselves. That never works. You always have to have a outside body. I mean, in many fields, even in like restaurants, you don't have restaurants that come in and do their own sanitation test. There's a government body for that.
Yep.
In this situation, you're telling me that the only ones looking into the police are the police?
Yeah.
And not even like an outside, like it's like, okay, well, these are people from the Edmonton Police Department or Calgary Police Department. They're like, no, we're RCMP officers too, but we're RCMP officers too, but we swear if the RCMP mess up, we'll let you guys know. Get real.
Yeah, the bias, right? This is like going to a restaurant and asking them, "Do you have good food?" to the owner. Of course, they're going to tell you they have good food. You don't ask somebody who is involved directly with something or listen to. I generally discount a lot of media articles or whatever if I'm looking at a certain topic and it's somebody writing about it, whether it be Islamic issues and it's a Muslim person that's writing that. They've got a pretty heavy bias, I think, or Jewish issues, and it's a Jewish person writing it for a Jewish newspaper. I think it's kind of clear that they're probably not going to say something negative about Jews or negative about Muslims, or we're all built with that bias. The RCMP are going to be the exact same way, as is any other police department, and it is widely known that they have this, we need to defend ourselves. It is a kind of us and them mentality.
Hell, I'll give you a great example of that too, where it took place. A little while ago, when I was talking about my buddy, he owns his own shop, his own business, that got broken into. Like, he's a good guy, but he's not going to take any crap from customers. So there was one time that he got into it with someone in his store, and they left a bad review on Google. He called a bunch of his friends and family, and they just left good reviews, and they buried that bad comment underneath all these good ones and all of the 5-star ratings. So nobody sees it. It's the same sort of thing that they're doing. They're saying, "Oh, there was a mess up. Well, don't worry. We looked into it, and it turns out everything's okay." I worked with Paul for 30 years or something, but don't worry. I was legitimate, and I did my due diligence, and I was honest on the whole situation. They want us to believe that real life police work is like what you see in like a CSI show or something like that, where it's like these cops have the best intention and the truth in mind, and that's all you're going to get it, even if it pains them to have to turn on one of their own. But that's not the truth. The truth is, the only way they're going to punish one of their own if this cop backed the whole department into a corner, and they're like, "There's literally no way that we can defend you from here without completely destroying the reputation of the RCMP or the police department." This is what they're really doing. So the whole point of these sort of investigations is, if anything, I think they look into it, then they pull them aside, be like, "Listen, this is where we saw a problem. This is like the evidence we came across. You guys want to jump on this now or find a good alibi as to how this doesn't apply?" This is what the police do for each other these days. It's that, as we've said many times, it's that thin blue line. Yeah. And most cops will stand wholeheartedly together just to ensure that. I mean, a good example is, I know that there have been a couple, but how many cops have you seen that have come out and called out the tyrannical actions of many cops during COVID-19? They're even in the States, they've just infringed on every single amendment of the American Constitution. Up here in Canada, they've infringed on every single section of your Charter of Rights and Freedoms. How many cops do you see are calling out other cops for it? I have seen maybe 1-2 cops at most that have actually spoken out against that. The rest are just going along with it, or just keeping their mouths shut. And that's what you really need to know.
Yeah, and so you're saying about this reminds me of a case here in Calgary. This isn't the case, funnily enough, I was thinking of. Police here in Calgary don't fire their own officers. This is how strong their line is. For the second time in 20 years, a Calgary police officer has been fired. 2 times, ever. in 20 years. And actually, I think this is a mistype because I'm aware of something else, but they say that it's actually much longer than 20 years.
Wasn't it like their history or something, like since the formation of the Calgary Police?
It was for their predators, for an officer for predatory behaviors, but this article doesn't seem to cite that. And let's see here, this guy, I mean, who was repeatedly had these problems of very heavy sexual harassment of people, of women, and very vulnerable women. And I think the only reason that this one came out, maybe I'll just read it briefly. A Calgary police officer has been fired for discreditable conduct and insubordinations after behaving in an exploitive and predatory manner with a vulnerable young woman who had recently attempted suicide. In a copy of the penalty decision by retired police superintendent Paul Manuel, which was obtained by Post Media, it said the 22-year veteran officer, Dave Pizzolato, was fired in September after being found guilty of 2 counts of misconduct. According to the document, Pizzolato went to the victim's home in June 2016 to check on a welfare complaint. The woman had tried to kill herself and was admitted to mental health unit where she stayed for 4 days. Shortly after leaving the woman at the hospital, Pizzolato began texting her from his personal cell phone. Hospital staff were made aware of the conversation, reviewed the content, and called police after deeming them inappropriate. I love this word. You know, this is newspeaks. He was being disgustingly vulgar, is what they're trying to say. In the provided text messages, Pizzolato does not provide any community resource information, despite that claim to initiate contact. However, Pizzolato and the woman continued to text, and when she was released, Pizzolato showed up at her home in his personal vehicle. They went for ice cream. Later, the woman told officials she was scared that he might do something to her, as similar things have happened to her in the past, and did not know what to do. Approximately 75 to 100 text messages were sent between them. At the time, Pizzolato was 48 and the victim was 22. I was worried because he knew where I lived and he knew my phone number. I didn't know how he would react if I said no and didn't text him. I didn't know if he would come to my apartment, and said the woman, who is a sexual assault survivor and victim of human trafficking, in a victim impact statement. Manuel said the texts were, quote, all personal in nature, too familiar, too suggestive, inappropriate, unsolicited, unwanted, and wholly unprofessional. Calgary police records indicate that Pizzolato had previously documented incidents involving unsolicited contact with women he had encountered on the job. He was also facing unrelated charges of assault in 2016, in which a man in custody said he was allegedly assaulted by the officer. Just 2 weeks prior to the texting incident, Pizzolato's staff sergeant counseled him not to contact women he had to interact with, part of his duties. This is unbelievable. Greg Dunn, the officer's lawyer, said Pizzolato had, quote, good intentions. I'm sure he's sending dick pics or whatever he's doing is good intentions with a woman who is so vulnerable. She's been trafficked almost in her entire life. Her story, I'm aware of, is quite horrific. And this guy, had been told repeatedly, do not do this, because he had done it before, and they'd received numerous complaints. And the only reason that this happened, that he got fired, and to the best of my knowledge, it was that he is the second in history of the Calgary Police Services to ever be fired, which I can try and find. But he's been warned, he's facing charges, and they still keep him on the job. And the only reason that they're going to say anything is because these nurses at the hospital, the other part of this story is, like, when it doesn't include that here. When he took her out for ice cream, he found out that the hospital knew about the text and had sent them to the police. So he dropped her off around the corner because the police were waiting at her apartment for him.
Good.
So he figured, oh, this is how I will get away with it, and don't talk to them. Don't tell them that you saw me. You're just out for groceries, blah, blah, blah. This is how disgusting and vile it is. And the hospital staff went public with it. So then, therefore, they had to do something about it.
That's unbelievable. I mean, cops are supposed to be held to a higher standard, and yet it seems like the standards have never been lower for them, and that's unbelievable. In fact, actually, one thing that an idea I've been toying with, and I'm really leaning to it more and more. I can't say that I got the idea. It's not an original idea. It originally came from, there's like it's been made into a couple of movies, but there's a comic book series I like called Judge Dredd. And one of the things about it is that in this series, it's that these judges who pretty much act as the cops for like this future dystopian thing, blah, yada yada, they've given a lot of authority, but they also have a lot of repercussions. So if they are accused and found guilty of a crime, even if it was a minor crime, they got much harsher sentences because they were given so much authority. I think the same thing should be done for cops now. If they're going to have so much authority, if they are found guilty of a crime, let's just say it was a crime that you or I would get 2 years in prison for, they should get 5 or more. And this is sort of the trade-off for the amount of authority they're given. I mean, it's not going to stop the corruption, but I think it would be at least help to be a deterrent if they found out it's like, well, instead of getting a couple of years in prison, I'll get 10 or whatever it happens to be. And I really think this is the direction we need to go, because cops are starting to prove themselves to be more corruptible than the average citizen, and yet they're still given the authority to arrest people. We have numerous counts of situations where they've planted fake drugs on people just in order to arrest them, because who knows, they need their quota. And even some of the power they do have is unbelievable. Like, they can search your car if they have probable cause. But probable cause is, even for them, could be like, oh, we smell marijuana. So, like, it's so easy for them to walk up to your car. It's like, I smell marijuana from your car. And you could be like, well, I've never in my life smoked marijuana. Well, I smell marijuana, so I'm searching your car right now. It's so easy for them to be corrupted, and they're taking advantage of it. And because of that, there needs to be harsher repercussions for a cop that does, like this guy who commits a gross act such as that. And it seems like there's next to no repercussions. Like at this point, when this guy finally got fired, how many different times did this happen to him? Numerous.
They never disclosed. They just said that it's multiple times, that he had been over years that he had done this, and he had been strongly reprimanded, whatever the hell that means, for doing this. And they just said, well, don't do that anymore. And he's still going out and doing it. And all he was supposed to do was go and provide the initial information for her, so that she had the resources, so she didn't go off and kill herself like she was trying to do, because her life had already been traumatized so horrifically by human trafficking and child sex abuse and prostitution. And here's this predatory man who'd served 22 years on the Calgary Police Services, up on assault charges, all kinds of other garbage. I mean, this is just nonsense.
And this is not even uncommon. And it's like, it's not even necessarily that you got cops that are doing sexual assaults and rapes, but even when they turn a blind eye to it, because we know for a fact that over in the UK with those rape gangs that were going on, the cops turned a blind eye to it. And how many young girls ended up getting trafficked? How many of them ended up getting murdered at the hands of these rape gangs? Too many. But then the cops knew what was going on, and they did nothing about it. And, hear from some of the people, like some of the women who survived these rape gangs, And they're being told about how they're telling about how we went to the cops, and told them exactly what was going on, exactly who, like the names of people that were involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
And they pretty much told them to get lost. They're like, oh, you're just exaggerating, or, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or, just don't say anything about it. It's not a big deal. I mean,
this business about, like, and I don't want to skate too much into that area, but this business about the sexual component and kids and all this nonsense is really quite disgusting and vile. And the police, again, there obviously are good police officers. I hate this guilt tripping. I was thinking to myself when I was having a shower, I'm tired because there was something else I want to talk about, which maybe is for a different stream. But anyway, the idea of being guilted, you have to say, no. Listen, there's bad cops. That's all you need to say. There are bad cops and they need to be cleaned up. We don't need to go on the defensive and say, oh goodness, there's great police officers and all this other nonsense. That's understood. But I'm not gonna feel guilty by saying that there are bad police officers and it needs to be cleaned up. There was a photo that I forget who shared that with me. Somebody did. And that brings in stuff like this, right? RCMP, UN, right? And then you go into where is it here? Canadian law can't punish some peacekeepers for sex abroad, and this is the police. RCMP going abroad and other police forces and raping kids and stuff, and we don't do anything to them.
Nope. Hell, in fact, there was even not too long ago, like this wasn't exactly just encompassing Canadians involved with this, but it was sort of all over the world. But they were talking about how the UN peacekeepers were involved with, what was it? It was like 60,000 rapes across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Yeah, that article that came out not too long ago. So it's like they're not doing anything about it. They knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't stop them from doing it, or they didn't send them home. They didn't arrest them. They pretty much just same sort of thing. Gave them the finger wag. Hey, don't do that. That's mean. Well, that didn't stop them, and they kept doing it. And to this day, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Peter Douglas, that Canadian that received the Order of Canada, he was working for the UN, and how many kids did he rape in Nepal and all over the freaking world because of his work he did with children? Yep. We don't know how many, but we can pretty much say it's a lot. We know at least 2 because he was arrested in Nepal with 2 young boys in his house at the time, so we know that freaking happened. And there's some gross pictures of that man out there. There was one I ended up seeing that was it was like him, and there was like a little kid crying next to him, and he was just smiling at this camera, and I'm telling you, that is the fucking smile of a predator. That is the smile of a pedophile. I want to see if I can find that one. But yeah, no, this is exactly all over the world. This is what police forces are dealing with. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Hold on. It was this photo right here.
Oh,
that is a predator if I've ever seen one. That's all I have to see.
Look at that poor child's face.
Oh yeah, the kid's crying his eyes.
Has been violated horrifically.
Yeah, no, that's. But yeah,
it's not a smile. That's not, hey, you're doing so much good work from saving us. Which skates off into other areas. It's hard not to do that by saying there's been this there's rampant sexual stuff going on at the top. All this stuff, you've got Trudeau mm-hmm. with out there in Vancouver. I mean, fuck, my 2 nephews and niece go to that school. And
Really?
thank God, yeah, thank God he's not there.
Oh,
I mean, he's
no
cracking
kidding.
jokes about banging kids. He thinks that's funny. And he's off, what was that? What was that case in Kamloops? I forgot about that one. The woman who came out of the woodwork and said,
Oh, against Trudeau?
yeah.
I think I have something. I think I might still have it open on my phone. It was a while ago. But as far as I know, they settled for an undisclosed amount of money, and it was done behind closed doors. So you or I won't hear anything about it. But hold on, give me a second.
Everything's settled.
Apparently,
Everything's settled and no wrongdoing, right?
pretty
No
much,
admission.
or at least they're not making it public. Let me see. Let me see if I. No, I don't think it was that. I hope I didn't close it.
Do you still have that window open?
Quite possibly.
Oh, the amount of windows open, eh? But yeah, it's just vile what's going on with this world. And so, that was kind of what I was talking about last night with some of these, and there were some allegations against RCMP members and child family services, etc., that people were making. And I'm like,
There it is.
I'm trying to come with a discerning mind, even trying to say, no, that didn't happen. A lot of stuff that seems to feel like that those things are happening. Sadly.
So here it is. Trudeau accuser lands a 7-figure non-disclosure agreement to keep quiet about West Gray departure.
Ooh. Oh, I didn't know that.
From October 10th, 2019. Sources are telling the Buffalo Chronicle that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's accuser has been in talks with a private attorney for more than a week, discussing a heated sexual relationship that began and ended more than 18 years ago when the young woman was a student at Vancouver's prestigious West Point Grey Academy. The Chronicle is told that the two engaged in a month-long affair beginning in the summer of 2000, both on and off campus. That non-disclosure and an accompanying non-disparagement agreement were signed last night, according to a source, for more than $2.25 million Canadian.
And what year? How old is this person?
At the time?
Yes.
I believe they were 17 at the time. Let me see if there's an age. It's unclear, but as far as I can tell, I don't see an age, at least not in this article. But again, I think it's very unlikely that they were over 18, because this is a school, like I think it's a high school, if I'm remembering correctly. So everyone you're pretty much always underage for that time. So I'm positive.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No. No, it's most certainly not.
Let's see. Junior kindergarten to grade 12.
Yeah, let's just say like I said, I have firsthand knowledge of that.
Yeah.
Right, and they're not old enough to be in high school. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's disgusting. Could be little kids.
For all we know, yeah, she could have been 12 at the time, or younger, maybe a little older. No one really knows.
K to 12. No, it was the other case I was thinking of where a reporter had said that he had sexually harassed her.
I forgot about that one, but yes, you're right. There was that situation too, where he said he remembered it differently. Let's see.
Birdie seems to remember that they were 16.
16? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I do still have it. Yeah, I still got that. Hold on.
Oh, Todd says 13-14. That's foul.
Let's get a little closer.
I'm just going to grab a quick coffee.
No problem. I'll read it out. So, I'm sorry. If I had known you were reporting for a national paper, I never would have been so forward. Those were the words that were spoken to an advance reporter by Justin Trudeau, son of former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, August 4th. Trudeau, who was in Creston to celebrate the Kokanee Summit Festival put on by the Columbia Brewery, apologized a day late for inappropriately handling the reporter while she was on assignment, not only for the Advance, but also for the National Post and Vancouver Sun. If I had known you were reporting for a national paper, it's not a rare incident to have a young reporter, especially a female, who is working for a small community newspaper, be considered an underling to their more predominant associates and blatant disrespected because of it. But shouldn't the son of a former prime minister be aware of the rights and wrongs that go along with public socializing? Didn't he learn through his vast experience in public life that groping a strange young woman isn't in the handbook of proper etiquette, regardless of who she is, what her business is, or where they are? And what makes the fact that she was working for the Post of any relevance? Big stories break first in community papers, after all. It may not have been an earth-shattering find, but one thing could have been learned from this experience. Like father, like son. So that was one about that situation. Yeah, he ended up saying that he remembered it differently, despite the fact, just like a couple of years earlier, he ended up saying that he had a zero tolerance for this sort of activity in his party. And anyone, including himself, was ever caught doing this sort of thing, they would have been out. But nope, as soon as it came to him, no. He still gets to lead the party. He still gets to be prime minister. But anybody else, such as those two Liberal MPs that were accused by that one NDP, whatever her name was, no, they're thrown out of the party.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I don't subscribe to, I'm probably people are not going to understand what I'm saying. Some people, anyways, but I don't subscribe to the fact that political parties are worth shit. It doesn't matter. This is all a fucking joke. It doesn't matter which way you vote, whatever. It really doesn't. They're disgusting people who run our countries, who run our corporations, and sadly, who run, or at least not cleaning it up in the police forces, right? What is that? I had, because we've kind of moved slightly off target here and broadened it, but
we tend to do that, don't we?
Well, the discussions are interesting, right? What can you do? Trudeau, I thought it was the Kamloops, the Kamloops journalist who came out and said, oh, she'd been abused. So he's had, or not abused, sorry, been sexually harassed. He groped her. So we have a groping, we have the kid, he has the joke about the school when he was telling little girls in school, the sexual joke at West Point.
Yep.
Gray, West Point Gray.
West Point Gray Academy.
Yeah. I should know. This is how much I visit with my family. Very sad. Anyway, but and then you get into the other stuff. Where is it? Here, I've got this. You remember when I used to make tweets?
You used to have a great account. Actually, it was funny because I used to follow that account before I even knew it was you. And I was just like, I used to enjoy those. And then after I met you, I was like, oh shit, you're no jihad, Justin.
Let's see here.
I learned a lot from that account.
It was a good account. Why is this not sharing? Oh, here we go. About that in Elle magazine. Oh my goodness! If you haven't ever seen that before, where is it?
I don't think so.
That is
And if you don't mind, I shill my own stuff for a little bit because I'm just posting a link.
Please do.
That was a video I made. I think it's over a year ago now. Yeah, a little over a year ago, which was just like all the people in Justin Trudeau's life that have now been accused of, like, well, actually have been found to be pedophiles. So, like, his old roommate from college who also taught at West Point Grey Academy, who ended up getting arrested. There was John Seeley, who was like his mentor to him when he was a kid.
Yuck.
Yeah, and then there was a few other ones as well that he's been involved. Peter Douglas was one of them, because I believe if I'm remembering correctly, but like Peter Douglas was like someone he knew for years because of his father. And so just how all these, there's the accusation against Trudeau, then it's all the people around him who have now been found guilty of pedophilia. I mean,
it's gross, man. It's gross. I think this was it. Was this it?
I was busy thinking about boys, boys, boys. I was busy dreaming about boys, boys, boys. Head is spinning thinking about boys, boys, boys. I was busy dreaming about boys, boys, boys. Head is spinning thinking about boys, boys, boys. I was busy dreaming about boys, boys, boys. Head is spinning thinking about boys, boys, boys.
I think it's just the rest is Gary. It's fucking gross, man.
no kidding.
But this is what we have in the upper echelons ruling us. Whether it be our governments, whether it be our police forces that protect. There's another prime example, right? So, I used to go on and on about Miriam Monsef.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because some stuff I know on the inside. And she passed 4 background checks. And I know for a fact that it was public knowledge to Trudeau that she was born in Iran. Who's doing the background checks? RCMP. She would have had, and it was 4 of them that she had to pass. She had to pass to become a member of the party. She had to pass to be elected. She had to pass to become a minister. She had to pass to get appointed to the Privy Council, which was an extraordinarily high position. She had the highest security clearance in the country. She still does, technically, even though she's not on the Privy Council anymore. So what in the hell is going on here? They let that all skate, CSIS and RCMP?
Oh, they covered up for it. In fact, I'm pretty sure they had no problem. Like, even if they were aware of this and they came back to Trudeau or another member of parliament and were just saying, like, hey, she's not actually from where she says they are, they pretty much probably told the RCMP and CSIS, oh, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And they just said, oh, okay. Yeah, no, they're covering up for it. Abso-freaking-lutely. And I mean, even with, in terms of like sort of talking about the whole pedophilia thing, I mean, that for anybody who even looked into it, and I know everybody here is aware of this, but even what happened with Jeffrey Epstein kind of proved the same thing in the States. And it's not just American politicians, but it was British politicians, it was Canadians, it was absolutely everyone. And I'm positive. Don't actually have the evidence to back it up yet, so I have to say allegedly. I think that this is also what the Aga Khan does with his island. I think he was another sort of Jeffrey Epstein type guy. And this is why all these politicians come to his island. This is why he's friends with presidents and prime ministers and world leaders all around the world. But that's just my opinion, and it's just alleged. There's no evidence to back that up. But
no, these people are all into seedy shit. And
That's putting it mildly.
And this is the only thing I can come up with is legal action. I mean, what the fuck else can you do? Short of having a full-on revolution. The world is not going to improve this way. People will stand on dots. They're going to do stupid things and wear masks and hide behind shields and eat up bollocks that they're being fed. Absolute pablum. They totally agree with everything that's happening. You know, and then they get fed lies. Who was that? Somebody sent me a tweet today. Very good tweet. I'm sorry. I really should remember who sends me what. So much good stuff. But the tweet about a polling company who ran a poll about vaccinations, and they reported that only, I think it was, let's see if I can find the tweet, 12% or something, or 22% were opposed to vaccinations, when in reality, 78% were opposed.
Oh, they manipulated the numbers then?
Yeah, they just fed people. They didn't even, I mean, why do you even have the fucking poll? Just say 78% of people. Doesn't matter. You know, just like Trudeau and the fucking Kadar settlement or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter what we all think. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter whether we're pissed off about the RCMP fucking up. You know, they're never going to change it. The government's not going to change this abhorrent sexual deviancy with children, which is vile and disgusting, isn't going to get rooted out because people, there's some kind of fear, which I can't really explain, that because there has to be some good people in there, I'm assuming, you know?
I get the distinct impression that the good people, that if they're in there, they get drowned out or tossed out pretty fast. And I also think there's a very heavy vetting process that goes in, that anybody not willing to play ball doesn't make it very far. Sure, they might, like, let's say if we're talking about politics, they might still work in Parliament or work for an MP, but they will never become a member of Parliament. That'll be vetted out by these leaders, and they're going to be tossed out for any reason. You know, even if they just say, you know what, it's you know what, we don't think you're the candidate to run. You know, we're going to go with Jimmy over here, or Laura, or Karen, whoever it happens to be. I think that these people, the ones who come in with good intentions, they probably don't come in hiding it because, you know, they legitimately want to do something good. So they're probably something that they're public about, you know, oh, you know, I come to power, or like, if they vote me in, I'm really going to try and do some changes around here. That's good. And I think that people that are involved in the prime minister's office, that are involved with these party leaders' offices, they keep a close eye on those people, and they will never work their way up the polls. That, or they'll be corrupted over something, you know, hey, here's some money, you know, just keep your mouth shut. Things like this. That's why I think there are good people, but they are just buried underneath all the corruption immediately, either kicked out, forced out, refused to be moved up the ladder, or they just buy them off as fast as they can. And I mean, this is actually the thing with the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, is he was running a blackmail ring. So anybody that did want to make some changes couldn't do it anymore. It's like, hey, you know, I got this video of you, you know, sleeping with a 17-year-old. I mean, you didn't know it was a 17-year-old, but you did it. And this is exactly the same sort of thing they do. Or go through their family history, go through their internet history, whatever it happens to be, and find out some nasty dirt on him, tells him, I'll expose this. I will ruin your life if you don't play ball. And that's why it seems like there's no good people. And you even said, like, you know, you don't know why. I actually think you hit the hammer on the head in the past streams, where you talk about this series of trauma that they keep putting on people. They keep hammering into people to the point where people feel like this is just the way things are. There's nothing I can do about it. When really there's a lot more hope out there. It's just, it has to be with people taking the first step.
It does. I mean, there's somebody I know who was involved with something and a suit. And, you know, my mother said to me, she's aware of the situation, and she's like, well, just settle. You know, they'll probably come along, there'll be a settlement, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know, I got so angry when she said that. I'm like, this fucking settling stuff has to stop. The only time that you're going to get real results and real change is when people are absolutely fucking nailed to the cross. They have to fucking admit their guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, RCMP in this case have to fucking, so whoever sues the RCMP, and God willing they will, they got to go all the way. No settling, no, you know, a couple of dollars here and there for me, and it's going to take care of my kids, and we'll allow this to go on and on and on and on, because it's the fucking slippery slope, I'm telling you. You have to fucking let it know. This is it. We're done with that, because, you know, companies won't clean up this shit in their backyard. You know, this thing that I am aware of is they literally saying they're trying to get a multi-year sexual abuse case of an employee by her employer, multi-year raping her. And they're trying to knock it down to WCB. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Sorry, WCB?
WCB.
What's that?
Workers' Compensation Board. Like, she fell off a scaffolding.
Oh. Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, no, not going to happen.
That's freaking unbelievable.
But you see, in order for this person to go through their stuff, they have to get all kinds of re-traumatized again. You know, so a lot of people don't want to go through that shit. They're just going to say, oh, well, no, you know, and equally, I feel for the people down in Nova Scotia. Do they really want to go through this? Do they really want to get their head out of the sand and face the fact that their RCMP failed?
I think one of the other problems is that for a lot of these people, it's the fear of the financial cost of going through these lawsuits. Because if you're going up against the government, the RCMP, you know that they have all the money in the world to throw at it. And it's like every single day that you're still going through your lawsuit, you're losing more and more money, and you're going tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I think for a lot of people, it's that gamble that they can't afford to take it. They still like, well, I've got a family, you know, I can't be sitting here with a $500,000 or $1 million debt just for the possibility that I'll win. And I think that's one of the big things that scares them off from doing these lawsuits. Like, I just think about myself right now. If I had to go through one of these lawsuits right now, oh man, I would be, I can't even imagine the debt I'd have to accumulate in order to do that. And I think this is one of the reasons that so many people are unwilling, and they're saying, it's like, hey, we're going to settle, you know, here's an NDA, but, you know, we'll settle with you. They just say, cool, you know what? I got my compensation for whatever crimes were committed. I'll just sign this, and then I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about going into debt and possibly losing. And also, even if you lose, a lot of times, you know, you got to cover the other legal fees. So I think this is really one of the problems too. They use the system just to scare people off. Lawfare. But yes,
there's 82 people in here right now. 82 people. I'm sure 82 people can find $100. You know, they don't buy beer for a week or something like that, and they put the $100 in. That's 80. What are we looking at then? 8,000. You keep raising money. More and more people that we have, you know, and we pool our resources. You can absolutely hire a lawyer here. You know, it's $25,000, usually $30,000 to run a case. You know, on a big case like this, it's going to cost a lot more money. Sure. And the lawyers equally have to step up, you know, and there are good lawyers out there still who will do stuff, you know, not just on the bottom dollar and they're looking for their contingency fee or whatever. There are still good lawyers out there, and there are good judges to answer duck. You know, Judge Riley out here in Alberta was excellent. He was excellent, and he was willing to name the whatever they want to call themselves now, Indian Native Northern Affairs Department, liable for all kinds of things. You know, there are good judges out there who are still, and frankly, I don't want to listen to the argument of pessimism because I'm looking for a solution. And short of, you know, full on crazy boogaloo nonsense, this is all we've got left. And why has nobody exhausted this possibility or even attempted it? When it's been attempted in the past that I'm aware of, it has worked. You know? And these people, we need it. Our kids are going to need it. If we just keep letting it all slip, there's no changing.
For a long time, a lot of people, and I think this is very prevalent in Canada right now, people feel alone in these situations. They feel that it's them versus the government, which way is what we need to encourage, that this is something that'll benefit everyone, all the citizens. And this is why we all need to take not just an emotional investment in it, but a financial investment in these situations. And again, it doesn't have to be a crazy amount that you're offering, but if you can get enough people together to donate $20, $50, even $100, you can raise a lot of money for these lawyers to get this thing done. And I think this is what needs to be hammered into the heads of people, is that it's easy to be pessimistic. I know I go through my own pessimism, and I can sound very pessimistic even when I'm like making my videos or whatever. But at the end of the day, no matter how pessimistic you are, you can't give up, because it's so easy sometimes just to give up, to just phone it in and say, I've had enough. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And it can be a lot harder to keep wanting to fight. And you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything more than just still talking to people and telling them what's really going on. Because at the end of the day, I think that is actually the only way that we'll be able to, those who are unaware, make them aware of what's going on. Mm-hmm. Those who feel alone, make them realize that they're not alone. Mm-hmm. And that'll actually, and if we're able to do that, mm-hmm. and make people realize that they actually got a huge portion of the population that's willing to have their backs, mm-hmm. then they're more willing to go through with these lawsuits. They're more willing to try and hold their government to account, because it's like there was a test that was done in, like, I think it was like the 40s or something like that, where it would be like people were simply asking questions. Like they were asked a question, and then what it was is there was I actually think like they would have one test subject, and like the other 2 or 3 people in the room were plants. Mm-hmm. And they would be at the person conducting the test would ask a question, and then the other 3 plants would go first, and they would give an answer that was clearly wrong. Like everyone knew it was wrong. The instructor knew, the person conducting the test knew it was wrong. The person, the guinea pig, the test subject, knew it was wrong. But the peer pressure of hearing everyone else give this answer, more often than not, encouraged them to give the same answer. So if it was like what is 2 plus 2 equal? And people would say 5. The test subject was more likely to answer 5 as the answer, even though they knew it was wrong, just because of the peer pressure.
Yep.
And because of that, if we're able to make people aware that we have their back, if we're willing to make them see that they're not alone, they're more likely to go through and to stand up and keep fighting. And that, I think, is the most important part.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. People have power. People have power. We have been conditioned to think that we have no power. We have been conditioned to think the only thing we can do is our political system, and that's it. And these people are going to take care of it. You know, I before I start spouting off with obscenities, but seriously, get it together, people. This isn't working. It's not. It's not going to change if we go and form a separate country, even if that happened. It's not going to change. The systems are in place for these corruptive behaviors to continue. You know, so start by fighting back with what you've got, which is power, And we've got a good country. We've got lots of great people. We've got people in here who are willing to do research. I'm sure there's a lot of people in here who are willing to put up a few dollars because you go out on the street, nobody is going to say they want these things. You poll them. Are they willing to put their money where their mouth is and try something? Just see if you have the power. You have the power here to put this information together, say in this particular RCMP case, and I think it's a good one. I think, frankly, it's a really good one, and you can hit them and let them know. Listen, we the people aren't going to tolerate that kind of behavior. It's going to change. Know who is in control here. It is not you. It is not the government. We are the government.
And the thing is that it sounds like such a cliche, but people need to understand the power that one voice can have. And I learned that, of all places, at one of my past jobs, because I worked for a place where there were like monthly staff meetings, right? And a place that was racked with problems. And for a long time, you go in the staff meeting, I just shut up. I sit there and, they go through blah, 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 whatever. And at the end, they'd be like, okay, is there any questions, any comments? And, for a long time, I didn't say anything. Nobody else did either. It would just be like that, 10 seconds of everyone kind of looking around like, nope. And then it's like, okay, back to work. And one day I think I was just like in a bad mood and fed up. And then, so I spoke up about a problem that we've been having for a long time. And as soon as I brought it up, suddenly everyone started piping up. Yeah, that is a problem. Yeah, I agree. It's been going on for a while. It takes only one person to give a lot of confidence to everyone else. One person to speak up, to say that this is a problem, and then you'll see how many people actually agree with you. Not everyone, of course, but if it's definitely a persistent problem, then yeah, you'll see how many people are willing to speak up. It's just nobody wants to be the first. And I get it. It's intimidating. Yep. Nobody wants to be that first. But if you're just willing for one time to put your uncomfortability aside and take that little risk to speak up, you'd be amazed how many people will actually agree with you, how many people will have your back. Because again, in that staff meeting, like I started saying about this, like the problems we were having, and people started to agree with me, but then other people started to put their opinion forwards about those same problems, or this other thing was a problem. And that's kind of when I learned that I was like, holy crap, like you actually like one person can really get an avalanche rolling. And that's exactly what needs to be done. Is what more and more people talk about it, the more and more people will start realizing the problems. And like I've said before, you're starting to notice that even the average sort of person who's really not that political or just like really dug into the standard political system are starting to see the cracks. They're starting to see the problems in society. They're starting to see the problems in politics. And that actually has given me some confidence, because if if I can use sort of a dead meme, but if the NPCs can start to see the problem, then the powers, the people in power have a real big problem on their hands.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they are afraid. They are afraid because they do see that people are turning. And they are, but it is that still this business about people don't feel they have the power. And number two, they don't know how to utilize that power. They are waiting for that person to step forward. But more than just talk, Adrian, I'll disagree with you on that one. The time for talk is fucking over. It's long gone. And the time for action is now. And, that's why I've been kind of, I take it personally what has happened here. And for, as in a friend, right? A friend of ours. But I also see it as a way that Canadians can get behind something and just try. Because if it doesn't work, okay, but at least we tried. And I know that it has worked in the past. If people unite behind something, and I don't think anybody would want what happened down in Nova Scotia to ever happen again. Period. I don't think there's anybody on the street who would want that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some crazed people out there who would, but they're so small.
Psychopaths.
They're so small. And there is a strategy. There's a strategy. You do hire the lawyer. You talk to the press. You mass mail out all the press, all people in, politicians, all at the same time. This is what's happening. Somebody in there is going to bite. It's not like, because the media, yes, they do like to silence shit. But somebody in there is going to bite and say, well, this is a story we should cover. And once you have that, then the other ones have to cover it. Because they have to come if they're owned and all this other nonsense, which is totally fucking true. We all know that, right? They have to at least come back with a retort. They have to reply. In which case, then that'll get some more NPC eyes looking at the paper and like, well, what the hell is this? There's some people suing the government? You mean you can sue the government? I didn't know you could do that.
One thing actually, when you talk about action, one thing I have at least been thinking about more and more, and it'd be difficult to organize, but if you could do it, that would send a real message, would be a tax strike. You hit them where it hurts, right in the wallet. You get a bunch of people. It doesn't even, even if you got 1 million Canadians, and that's even being optimistic, you got them to just one day say, I'm not paying you anything, no income tax, no property tax. You send off a letter or something to the government pretty much stating that. I think that would be a good way to get their attention and get them to sort of sit down and really at least listen to the problems that they're having. Because right now, that's hitting them right where it hurts the most. They love spending your money. But then if suddenly people are starting to say, I'm not paying you anymore until you sit down and fix this shit, I think that would actually be one way that you could start getting their attention.
It would work, but getting 1 million people, oh my God.
That's way optimistic for me to say 1 million people to get on that. What I think you would have to do is you'd have to raise a campaign, and it would start small. You maybe get a few thousand people across the country to go along with you. But I think if you could then keep spreading the message, then you'd see more and more people that were willing to join that movement.
Okay.
Who doesn't want to pay their taxes?
Listen, multi-pronged approach then. There you go. Don't pay your taxes. Use some of that tax money. Fund a lawyer. Boom. Now you're attacking them on two fronts. No, you're not getting my money. I'm pissed off about that. I agree with you. Do it. Let's get some stuff rolling here, though. I mean, I know you and I have had some discussions about the protests and all of that. I mean, Christ almighty. You get a lot of people and they'll say they'll do something or they're going to do something. Look at even just trying to raise money for Tara, right?
It's difficult, yes.
It's fucking hard, man. And I know that they're burying her, but we make appeals for people. We put our money where the mouth is, right? And donate it. It is something about other people not just talking, but doing. Action really seems to have gone by the wayside. And I've just never been that way. I've never been that way in my life. I am a fighter. I'm a fucking fighter, man. And, maybe now I'm old and whatever, but, I still have my mind. And I never gave up. I didn't care. I didn't care if I was getting the shit kicked out of me when I was younger. I would still fucking keep going. You got to knock me out if you want to fucking keep going at me. And people have to have that attitude. Action. Let's stand up for ourselves. Let us stand up for ourselves in a way that is not violent, is not, calling for some craziness, because then of course you get labeled on the fringe, right? It's all we need.
Yes,
that's all we need. Built the fucking world on that. Labels. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're a bigot. You're a racist. You're this. You're that. You're everything. And then that silences people. Trauma. Psychological warfare.
Which is now why I try, like, those sort of labels and stuff. I try not to let it affect me, because that's the whole point behind them. When someone comes at you using one of these words, whatever it happens to be, conspiracy theorist, racist, bigot, whatever word they want to do, whatever fancy slogan they decided to use that day,
Mhm.
I try not to let it affect me, and try not to let it get away from what I want to talk about, for the sole fact that that's exactly the point behind it. The
Yep.
whole point is just to make you shut up and
Yep.
keep going on with the status quo. But the
Yep.
status quo is not working anymore. And
No, sorry.
and yeah, no, like, action is one of those things that I've contemplated, but I wasn't exactly sure if we were at that point now. But you're right that nothing's being done. With the talk that everything is going on, you can talk and it's good and stuff, but you're right. At the end of the day, it takes someone to take the first step in action. And it does, again, we're not even talking about violent action in any way, but
No.
we're talking about legal action that we're allowed to take that just nobody does anymore.
Nobody does anymore. Nobody does anymore. I mean, and those kinds of labels and things like that. This is not some journalist who comes out with a term or something like that. These are fucking well-paid, well-financed think tanks that think of all these plans, how to counter the people. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. And they are out to keep you down. You, me, everybody, right? So listen, they're light years ahead because they're far more organized than we are. But that's not to say we can't be. This constant sowing of despair that has been and aloneness, like you said, right? Being one. Oh, I can't do anything. Fuck, I am so tired when people say that to me. It makes me so angry. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? You absolutely can do something. You learn how to walk. You learn how to talk. You learn how to get a job. You have power.
Well, if you think too, is that what we're suggesting is not very radical.
No.
And on top of that, it's like there have been men that have been put in harder situations against greater odds and have come through. I mean, to think about how, I mean, I know we're not American or something, but to think about how they started a revolution simply over a 3% tea tax. And we're at the point where our entire money is not only being stolen from us, but is being shipped off by the billions to other countries. How we're in an astronomical amount of debt. And it seems like most people don't want to do anything about it. It's just depressing. And I even, you know what, I'm even throwing myself in there, you know? I've sat around and for too long, I've not done anything about it. I've tried to do my talking and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I'm just as responsible as anybody else for the lack of action that's ended up taking place.
Well, that's personal responsibility, right?
Yep.
We have personal responsibility. And I know you and I and many other guys on YouTube, women, whatever, we're all doing something, but they've got the fucking system locked down so that we're in echo chambers. It's the same people hearing the same stuff. You know, very few of that gets out, you know, and then you've got to counter it with the labels and all this other BS. And sure, there is the power of the fact that you don't have power. But that's just a mindset. That's a mindset. What have we just gone through here? People taking RCMP and suing them. It can be done. And you don't settle. You get a judgment. That's called a precedent. That's why the judicial process is there. Lawmakers make laws. The judicial system interprets them, reinterprets them, sets precedences, and changes them.
Well, I know, if coming from a family of lawyers, you'll know better than I do, but in Canadian law, it's at least in English Canadian law, British law, precedent is a big part of our judicial system, right? Like, not it's not the be all end all, but precedent is used a lot in court cases in order to come to a determination. Absolutely.
You know, say on this sexual harassment stuff, right? Because I had to do, go off and research it. And there was a lady down in the United States, and I don't remember what year it was, 1960s some odd time, and she took her bank and sued them. She was the first person to do that, and for rape by her boss, and because of all of that, bang, what spins out but sexual harassment, which actually, funnily enough, sure, there's people who abuse that and do all kinds of nonsense, but there is change that happens in society because of that. Now, if that woman hadn't had the balls to step forward, one individual, and do that, we'd be in the same boat that they were in before. Precedent law. And then they cite it. They say, this is what has happened before. This is why we have the decisions that we make. You want to fuck up? You want to not serve the people? Okay. There's judgments against you. There's judgments against the RCMP for sexual harassment. Multiple ones, right? That's because somebody, somewhere, had the brain to sue them. And somebody right now, beaten, at least has the courage to go and sue Wortman. All that I'm proposing is you can crowdfund this research, and again, it's very, I feel that it's not well organized yet, but crowdfund the research, we have the evidence, we bring it to a lawyer, we crowdfund the lawyer, there you go. Now you've got a potential suit, which potentially would set a precedent. And I'll tell you, you just even file that piece of paper. Think about getting sued yourself. People shit their fucking pants. They literally do. So if the government gets taken to court, the RCMP gets taken to court, you don't think that there's going to be some heads rolling real fucking fast?
And the thing is, too, is for better or for worse, there will be a positive outcome. So you win, well, you win. So perfect. But even if you lose, it's still going to, at least people are going to become aware of it, because despite the fact that the media did everything they can in order to suppress this court case, think about how many people realized about the problems inside our banking system by R.V. Comer and what Comer did when they sued the Bank of Canada.
Yep.
I know for a fact,
yep,
I would not have been aware of the amount of problems we have with the Bank of Canada right now if it was not for that lawsuit and looking through what they were doing, what they were suing for. And again, they lost. But because of that, people became aware that the banking system, especially the Bank of Canada, just how corrupt it really is. So either way, at the end of the day, there will be a positive outcome.
But they didn't lose necessarily. They got it dismissed. It was dismissed. So, and somebody says here, quick kill Martin says you don't need the RCMP to lay charges. I mean, what the fuck was that? 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I'm saying, I believe it's Criminal Code 501. You can lay charges. Private citizen can lay charges against anybody. I could literally go tomorrow, if I had sufficient evidence, and charge the prime minister of the country. I have to present that evidence in front of a justice. I bypass the crown. I bypass the police system. I go straight to the judge. And I say, here is my evidence. Here is what I'm looking for. What do you think? Can I lay a charge here? And if there is sufficient grounds, I can lay a charge against anybody. And, I advocated really heavily for that for a long time. And I think, frankly, people need to utilize it.
It's one of those things that I think just most people are unaware of. They're not taught about it in school. They're never told in like the media or anything, go ahead and sue or present a charge against somebody like a politician or like the government or like the prime minister. So it's one of those people are unaware of.
They want you to know that.
Oh, of course not.
They work real hard not to have people aware of that one. More powerlessness.
In fact, I can quite clearly remember when I was in the 10th grade, there was civics and careers. And, that was kind of like when they really were, well, quote unquote, were really supposed to teach you about like how the government worked and that sort of thing. And when I look back on that, that was a propaganda class through and through. I can remember quite clearly my professor talking about how like good it is to pay your taxes. And any time, you throw out your garbage or you flush the toilet, blah, 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 blah. How he thanks the government of Canada and thanks that he pays his taxes because of the services that they provide. I'm not kidding you. He literally said that.
Yep. But you see, even I'm watching the chat here. There's despair. There's despair and resignation. And I'm not being judgmental. I understand and feel that too. Me. But there is Jesus respected people who did action. Right? To talk to Paul here. He respects people who do action, who are willing to live the Christian way. He's not going to come and save people who aren't wanting to save themselves, right? Or pseudo saying, 5G is going to fuck us all. Listen, it'll only fuck us all if we want it to fuck us all. That's up to us. We have that power. The people that run this world are very, 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 very few. They're extraordinarily powerful. Yes. But we have the numbers.
And also, see, the problem too, from what I can tell, just for Todd in there about the guy who tried to arrest Justin Trudeau, is that for as far as I can tell, that guy tried to directly go up and arrest the prime minister. That isn't going to work. No. In this situation, you need to go through the proper channels. I don't think you could just walk up and arrest the prime minister quite like that.
No.
It would be nice, but I think that was doomed to fail right from the very start.
So Bertie and Duck and Paul and Clever and Pseudo and Adrian and Seamus and Sister and all the people in here are fucking frustrated. So rather than feeling frustrated, do something about it. I've never really respected people who don't do something. If they want to sit around and fucking bellyache and talk, okay, that's your God-given right to do that. But I have a lot more respect for people who will fight. They don't give up. They don't resign. And yes, it is, you know that, I'm sure. I know that in my own life. It costs an extraordinary amount, whether it be financially, I know I'm lucky, but I could be out there making my money. Rather, I'm spending my own savings. That's okay. I'm okay. I don't sit here and need money from anybody else to take the time to devote to doing the research, right? I'm fortunate that way. But it costs a lot of things. It costs financial. It costs emotionally and psychologically and spiritually. Garbage piles. And everybody that's in here knows that. It's trying to have those discussions with the NPCs, with your family, with your friends, and saying, please, because in your heart there's something wrong. Please, you appeal to people. Help me help ourselves. But you got to do it. You can't just talk about it. Going to protests, Bertie, I understand that. But they don't work by and large because Christ, when I went to the protests once in Ottawa, they stuck us off in a side field. They had, what did they have? How convenient. How convenient. Well advertised protest. And how convenient that they had, what was it? Some tick awareness protest. Those were the people who got front and center stage. We got shoved off on the side. And nobody's going to pay attention to that. Nobody bothered to go and inform the media. So we sat there amongst, again, our echo chamber.
They did the same thing to, well, something very similar, at least, to us during the protest for the Global Compact on Migration. They pretty much saddled, they had those like metal barriers set up. They saddled us all into there. The media was there. You could see them. They were taking pictures and everything. But at the end of the day, what really got reported on? Just about nothing. And when it was reported, they talked about how there was a minor skirmish between protesters and counter-protesters at the very beginning, where I think 9 people were arrested. And then the rest of it was just, these anti-immigration people, these pretty much, I don't think they used the term this time, but more or less just, the white supremacists, the racist. That was pretty much all that got reported.
And where did those kinds of terms come from? This is so well organized and so well financed. Think tanks. That's all they do is sit around and think ahead of time how to control the situations, how to control people. They plan hard. And so we have to plan hard. And it's going to get, not to be, because I don't want to be dishonest, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Maybe people have to go to jail. Maybe people have to die. Who knows? But in order to, you have to be willing to do that, right? People like Trafficant, right?
Yep.
Balls of fucking steel, man. He was willing to go to jail for years. A congressman. And he eventually killed him. They eventually killed him. And of that, I have no doubt. You don't have a tractor flip over on you and suffocate with no bodily injuries. No. They killed him. But he had balls. He was the one person who stepped forward, and there can be more than one, and then there's one, and one, that Clairol commercial that we used to have on TV. Do you remember that? I think it was Clairol. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, like the you tell 2 people and they tell 2 people type thing, yeah.
Exactly. So let some of us, I'm more than happy to fucking take my hits. Come at me. You want to stick me in jail? Good. Go after me financially? I don't fucking care. It really doesn't matter to me. I've been blessed that way. I don't have a lot of responsibilities, I'm not a leader. I'm by far not a fucking leader. But I am strong in my convictions because I'm sick and fucking tired of this world and the way that it is. I'm sick and tired of kids getting abused. I'm sick and tired of the degradation of society that affects all people of all colors. The control. Our lives haven't gotten better. I don't care how much they try and sell you on that. Who cares about fucking I can file something in 2 folders on my computer, which doesn't work 78% of the time anyway, because you're constantly updating and fucking with it and monitoring me and doing all kinds of other shit. Go fuck yourself, man. Give me a spade. I'll go and plant a garden.
Well, that actually gives you this sort of the old idea, like the old way of living. It actually kind of gives you something to work for, something to live for. Mm-hmm. And this is, you've noticed that I don't think ever in history there's been a movement to return people to their foundations, to their roots. Like there's people that are living, that want to go back and live in the 50s, the 40s, even earlier. They want to have their own land. They want to grow their own crops and have their own animals in order to eat. Just a simpler time. Like they want to try and convince people that life has never been better, but yet people have never earned for such a simple living now. Things are way more complicated than they ever were. And because of that, people are actually more depressed than they ever were. That's the thing, is apparently mental illness is off the wall. Drug use is off the wall. That is not the sign of a healthy civilization or a healthy society.
God, I don't see, frankly, to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of improvement anywhere. IQs are going down. Jobless rates are going up. People are getting poorer. They buy less and have less. They don't have any money to retire.
Divorce rates go up.
Families are splitting up. But you know that I would say, because I've thought about it, there's a lot of channels and stuff like that. And of course, again, everybody's free to do their own stuff. But I know that there are ones out there that are very well funded. And all you have to do is look at their camera work. One particular channel I won't name, where he made a video about him leaving Toronto. I think he lived as an investment banker or whatever the fuck he was. And he went off in the woods and he bought up a small piece of property and he built his own cabin and he learned how to hunt and fish and do all this wonderful stuff. Do you know what? Do you know who he's looking after? Himself. He's not looking out for anybody else. So these ideas of running off in the bush, I can run off in the bush. I have a fucking ranch. I can move out there. It's in the mountains. I can be by myself for a while. I know the tech garbage is still going to catch up to me, and life is, you have to do, money, you have to pay for certain things and things like that. But who would I be protecting? Who would I be looking out for?
Yourself.
Yeah. That is a fucking ballless wonder. Ballless. It's time that people look out for one another. Even people they don't know, and they start to take care of them. Change starts at home, and then you work together. And if there is enough people that seriously want change, they will do. They won't talk.
That's deep, man. But no, you're right. You're right, because the thing is actually, with on top of everything else that we've been like you've talked about, I've talked about, one other thing that is on the rise is selfishness. And I mean, I think everybody's been guilty of that. Everyone's been guilty of looking out for themselves and letting everyone else go to the wayside.
Yep.
And we need to come together as a community in order to accomplish what we need to accomplish. Like we talked about the power in numbers. We talked about how there are people out there that think the exact same way and want the exact same thing, but we can't solve it completely on our own. No. This is the whole, but this is exactly why they're trying to push this idea of selfishness. And the whole reason for it is just this. It's a divide and conquer strategy. If everyone's too busy looking out for themselves, they're not looking out for each other, then it's a lot easier to take people over and take away their rights, take away their ability to live. And you won't have anybody that's talking about it. You're not going to have anybody else who's going to care about it. Because as long as it doesn't affect me, then it's not a problem.
Not a problem. Not a problem. My tire's not flat on the side of the road. I don't have to fucking stop.
In fact, actually, it's funny because this reminds me of a story about my dad. Because I've always felt like I have a lot of respect for my dad. And I've always said he's probably one of the best people that I've ever met, legitimately selfless and nice. And there was one time when I was still living at home with them where our neighbor was, she's elderly. So we would clean out, we'd shovel our driveway, we would shovel her driveway. And one time I was out there with my dad, and I don't know why, I was just in a bad mood, you know? And we're shoveling the walk, and then we both kind of look up, and there's like somebody coming out, like, so it was our houses, and there's an apartment building across the street from us. And this person was trying to get out of the apartment, but there was a lot of snow, like plow just came by, and he was stuck in the snow. And my dad just was looking at that. He's like, I think that guy's stuck, and he's like, we should go help him. And again, I was in a bad mood, and I was just like, I'm like, why? 90% of the people wouldn't help this guy anyway. And my dad just looked at me. He says, you know what? I'm happy to be the 10%. And he dropped his shovel. He walked over and he helped that guy get out. And like, I've always said, if I could be even a fraction of the person that my dad was, then I know I would have been a good person. And as I've gotten older, I've really come to appreciate the type of person that he is, because it's not easy being that type of person. Because unfortunately, those sort of people get manipulated a lot of the time, taken advantage of, and it's very easy to become pessimistic when you're in that mood and not wanting to help people anymore. And I think I'm a little more like reserved. I try and be, because again, it's the same thing with me. I tried to be a nice guy. I was taken advantage of before in the past and, been screwed over. But I still try and help wherever I can, at least a little bit as I can. And I think that's something that everybody should, that people really need to get back to. Because I know too many people in my life that really only care about themselves, are very misanthropic. Is that the word for it? Where you don't like people?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's like, just like they do not like people, don't want to be around them. I'm not even a people person myself. But you know what? If I can help, I do try and help. And that's an attitude that has been lost to a lot of people. And unfortunately, I think one of the main reasons is just urbanization. And one of the reasons they want to expand the cities as much as they can and get everyone involved in the cities they can. Because a lot of these small communities, especially these poor communities, people don't have anything, which means people are willing to look out for each other.
Yep.
I mean, I used to work with someone who came from Newfoundland, and she came from a poor area of Newfoundland. But one thing I thought was really cool, she told me, is like the one thing about that small town, despite the fact everyone was poor, if one person needed help, financially, whatever, the community came together because they were all in the same boat. So if one person needed help, they helped them this time. The day they needed help, those same people came together to help them. And I always really respected that, but you don't get that in the city.
That's why, people are looking to the small towns, are looking to the farms and things like that, because something inside of them is saying, I want that. But in order to have that, we have to change ourselves, right? And be willing to stand up, be willing to do the work. Not just talk about it, And it's absolutely true that the last generations, it's been going downhill, but they had it more together than we do. Suicide rates, people drug addicted, it was the small town mentality before, even in the big cities, funnily enough. I used to love to listen to old radio dramas sometimes when I go to sleep. And, there would be shows about New York City and the cop who was on the beat. And he knew the people on their names. And that's true. They did. And that's in a fucking big city. It was a mentality that people had. The selfishness, the materialism, the garbage that took over, that we allowed to take over. That's on us. This is on us. And maybe some people will shirk from that responsibility. I most certainly will not. Because if you shirk from it, it won't change. It won't change until we change ourselves.
It's kind of the same mentality, the same idea of the bully in the playground. It's that if you're just trying to, make yourself small, make yourself unnoticeable, sooner or later they're going to come around to you. But when you're ready to stand up and punch them in the nose back, I mean, you might still get beat up, but they're going to think twice the next time that they come and try and steal your lunch money or come to harass you, whatever it happens to be.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. When I was a kid, when I was really young, I used to get picked on a lot. And my mom would tell me, oh, just walk a different way home from school and this other bullshit. And then I went off to boarding school. And one of my best friends in boarding school, he held me down on the floor. He was a big guy and beat the fuck out of me. He kept punching me in the head. And he said to me, hit back. Hit back. And I'm like, why are you punching me? Don't punch me. He's hit back. Boom! And finally I did. And it wasn't just one punch. He's like, hit me more. Come on, keep doing it. Show me you have fight in you.
Probably the best life lesson you ever got, eh?
It was because it taught me I could stand up for myself. Even if I'm going to get beaten, I can still stand up. It doesn't matter. Because we have that within us. The courage, the confidence. We just need to find it again.
No, that's a damn good point. And that's the thing about actually I've come to notice about courage is it's easy. It's not easy to find it, but it's easy to lose it. Because I know I've gone through that in my own life. Like one thing why I didn't get picked on when I was a young kid wasn't even that I had the courage. I was just an angry child, and I don't even know why, to be perfectly honest. Maybe I inherited, like, as good as a guy my dad is, he always had a bad temper, and I inherited that. So I didn't have to worry about getting picked on because I had no problem getting angry. But then I found that at the one point when I ended up losing that, and that was probably in like my late teenagers, early adulthood. Because, it seemed like it was affecting some of my personal relationships. So I tried to calm down and stuff. But with it, I also found that came a much more passive human being. And those were the years when I ended up getting taken advantage of and everything. And that's sort of when I found out. And then I got a little bit older. And then I found that happy medium between being an angry kid, an angry person, and, being that meek little human. Mm-hmm. And I found that good middle ground.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And people sort of lost that in their lives. And I think it's, again, going back to what you've said over and over again. It's the trauma. People have been so beaten down and they feel they can't fight back that they don't fight back. Sure.
We get constantly, and then fed full of crap. I wanted to talk to you about, there's so much disinformation out there. I mean, I don't want to veer off topic because this is a good topic and a great discussion. But there was a video I watched and it was talking about, how Trump had taken over the Federal Reserve and all this other stuff. And he had appointed Fink and BlackRock is going to come in and fix it and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I started to reply to it. And it's a video for another day and another topic because that's into areas that are a bit more spicy, shall we say. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But Fink is parentheses. They're like, he's going to take the bank back from the Rothschild. Who the fuck do you think got him there? Who do you think? Yeah.
Literally, his Secretary of Commerce is a Rothschild agent, Wilbur Ross, who bailed him as casinos out in the 80s.
Yeah. But they keep piping people full of disinformation and false hope, and you're going to get it here, and there's going to be tunnels over there, and we're going to find the kids. Fuck you, man. Change it yourself. Quit relying on everybody else. They've really got people convinced that they have no power. This is so sad. It's really heartbreaking. And there are days that are really trying. And I'm like, oh my God, how can we get out of this? We're never going to get out of this. But I don't believe that because I don't think, frankly, I would be here still if I did. I would just give up. I am not going to give up. I've never given up. Fuck that. And people in here aren't going to do it. I know that. I know that because I have faith in all of them. Just as they have faith in me. And I have faith in a higher power that will guide me. Return and to ourselves.
And I get how easy it is to feel beaten down by everything, especially like, because I know a lot of the people in here and you and me, we do a lot of research into into the powers that be and like the system that's set up. And when you look into it, it's very easy to feel beaten down and feel like you're not even as David versus Goliath, but it's like an ant versus Goliath. And it's so easy to get pessimistic. It's so easy to get beaten down. For me personally, it's just, what's the alternative? Lying down and being a slave? That doesn't sound like a good future to me. I mean, at that point, why even keep on living?
Yeah.
What's the difference between living and surviving? And surviving isn't enough for people. Surviving's enough for a short period of time, like for those who are in a bad situation and they need to survive, that's one thing. But you can't go through your entire life surviving. You need to go through your life living. And that's why it's important to keep fighting.
Look how fucking sad we are. We're going to stand on dots. We're going to follow arrows in the store.
I actually go out of my way to not stand on the dots just for spite when I'm in the stores.
Thank you. I do equally. And I, as nasty as that may be, I make people feel stupid for it. Why? Because it makes them think for a moment to themselves. Yeah, I am standing on a dot. I am kind of a retard. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this?
I remember doing that in kindergarten.
Nobody's getting sick around me. What the hell am I doing? I'm going to let other people control me to tell me to stand on a dot? If you had said that to my grandfather, Jesus Christ, he would have kicked your ass all over the place. Stand on a dot. Oh, really? Really? 76 years old, he would have beaten my ass into the ground if I told him to stand on a dot.
And it reminds me of I think it was actually a meme, but it was like a picture I saw very recently, actually, where it was like two different photos from the same lineup. And it was one on one side, you had a break in the line, and there was a pigeon that was standing on one of the dots, right? And then in the other photo, it was a woman who was not standing on the line when everyone else on the dots, when everyone else was, right? So she was in between the two dots or something. And it ended up saying, and the caption on the photo was, "Imagine being dumber than a pigeon." And I remember I saw that and I just thought to myself, I'm like, imagine being so brainwashed you're advocating for standing on a dot. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
I ever since we started that, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, and I wasn't going to do it because I knew what they were trying to do. Because we've talked before about how we don't do very well when being told what to do. And so when you're telling me I need to stand on the dot, I need to social distance, all I do is I make sure that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. In fact, even just the other day, I've told you before about my best friends, we used to spend every weekend, every other weekend, me and my wife got together with him and his fiance. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen him since the whole COVID thing happened, just because him and his fiance are scared shitless by this whole thing. And I've tried to have that conversation with them. Hey, what's up, Jonesa? I've tried to have that conversation with them, but they stopped by a few days ago because they she made some sourdough bread and was dropping it off. But they wouldn't come up the walkway. We got about a 10-foot walkway from our house to the sidewalk. They stood at the end of the walkway on the sidewalk, and we had to stand on the freaking step because they didn't want to get into that social distance. And it was driving me insane. Like I kept telling him, like, just come in the house. Like just come inside. You guys have been in here a bunch of times. None of us are sick. Just come inside. But they didn't want to do it. I love them to death, but they are very NPC.
They're
And
afraid.
They're afraid.
Trauma.
Exactly.
The trauma has absolutely crushed so many people. So many people. Why? What the hell do you want to live for? You want to live to fucking sit in your house all by yourself, getting fat on money that isn't real money? For what? What do they want you there for like that? You have no purpose other than to live in fear? Then they can control you. But they already do, because we, just as Ozzy says, just as you say, conform. Nobody
Exactly.
really, nobody really tells me much. They don't. I think I do listen to the non-smoking thing a little bit. I don't smoke on planes, but that's about it. I don't give a shit about anything else. I'll smoke in the fucking yellow line. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. Oh, we can't smoke on a patio. I'm outside. So you're going to tell me I can't stand on the other side of the gate and smoke? Fuck you, man. You have a problem with it? Go somewhere else.
I've literally been on the other side of those patios before and leaning over with a cigarette in my hand. It's no problem. But if I was on the other side and leaning out, they still would tell me I'd have to leave. Oh, no, I completely understand. Although I did want to say that despite the fact what I was telling you about my friend there, I did actually have a breakthrough just today with someone else. There's
Great.
a friend of mine. I know her through work, but like we get along very well, and like I've known her for about a year now. Since the day I met her, she was a germaphobe. Doesn't like people standing too close. Like wiping down surfaces and stuff like that. And just today, we were having the conversation about COVID, and she was kind of like, I've been telling her about everything with it. It's like about the percentages and stuff, the weird things about its origin and stuff. And then today when I saw her at work, she came back and she was like, so I feel like I've been lied to about COVID. I'm like, you have from the very start. This germaphobe is telling me that she thinks that this whole thing is a lie now. I'm like, it is a lie. Like, sure, the disease is out there, but it's not this deadly disease that they've been telling you it is. You don't need to go out with a mask. You don't have to worry. Do you have precondition, other conditions that would affect it? No. Then you don't have to worry. So she's now, it's like, turn the table. She was that girl that, like, when everything happened, she was working with gloves on. She had a mask on. She's not doing that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I felt that was a bit of a breakthrough.
Awesome. Great job. And it does. You can wear people down, but it is trying. God knows it is, and that's why for me, I have become increasingly reliant upon God just to give me that strength, because there are times that I feel down, real down. And it's wonderful to see Concan in here. I left the links below, so please, help her out. We don't want anybody to be in this boat. That's what we got to do. That's what we're saying. That's what I'm saying. Help each other out. We have that option, right? This is not to help her with her legal battle, possibly with the RCMP or anything. This is just about her and her establishment of next of kin and for the estate. But we can do that. Why not? It's a worthwhile cause. She's a worthwhile friend. And, I like I said, I'm going to fucking fight for my friends, man. I always have. So, we can do this together, or we can be divided and fall. Yeah. Personally, I'm not going to stand on the dot and let my life whittle away in fear. No way to live. What kind of fucking life is that? It's
not a life. It's like I said earlier, it's surviving, but it's not living. And there's a huge difference between the two. I know I've brought up this example before, but it's like you have you look at, say, the horse that's in the wild and the horse that is kept on a farm in a stable. Which one do you think is actually happier? Now, the horse in the stable is definitely going to live longer because it's in a much safer environment. But, it's kept in the stable for as long as you want. It can only go out running whenever it wants. But the horse in the wild, it's free. It can run. It can sleep as it pleases. It's more susceptible to predators. But I'm guaranteeing you that horse in the wild has a much better life than the horse in captivity.
It does. Absolutely, it does. But you can love a horse and take care of a horse, and a horse will take care of you, just like any animal. It's all how you treat it. And we need to equally treat each other with kindness and love. Not to sound all mushy and stuff, because that's not really my style. But where did that go? I just don't want to live. I don't want to live this kind of life, this quality of life. People are excited. This is very sad to see, but it's true. People are excited to go to a drive-through. This is their family outing now. Their family outing. New York City, all the parks are closed. They've taken all the basketball nets down, everything. They're all locked. What the fuck, man? What kind of life is that? Steve's video that was made by a school that I played last night, and he has on his channel. Of course, I've left all the links below for everybody's channels and Twitter accounts and stuff. And it's good to support each other. And all the more I can, and I'm leaving out tons. There's tons of good people, but the video showed a classroom, and to keep social distance, the desks were all 6 feet apart. Well, the question I had for my girlfriend was, because I don't have kids of my own that I know of, and I said to her, where do you think the other 30 kids in that classroom are going to go? Because there's no room for them.
That's a good question. My guess, I don't know for a fact, but it sounds to me like they're the ones that get left behind.
I don't like leaving people behind. Her kids have just as much right to this world as any other kid does. No more, no less.
I especially don't like leaving a kid behind. I mean, as an adult, you can understand there's
nothing. That really pisses me off. Pisses me off royal to watch them. Sorry to interrupt, but it pisses me off royal to watch how these kids have absolutely been indoctrinated, fed crap, destroyed. They didn't ask for it. They don't even know better.
No, you're right. I mean, even I think about when I got out of school, the amount of indoctrination that I had to break was insane. And it felt like, in a way, that like my whole world had been torn down, because everything I thought I knew and everything I thought that was fact turned out to be a lie. But yeah, the thing is nowadays, with at least when that was happening to me, I had the internet I could turn to where I could learn this stuff, but that's being scrubbed away. It's got to the point now where these kids have nothing else, which is why when I have kids of my own, my whole plan is, as much as it might suck for them when they're kids, but I think it's necessary, is every day when they come home from school, or I'm going to try every day. I know it won't be actually possible, but every day I'm going to sit them down when they come home and ask them, what did you learn in school today? Go over what they learned. And then I'm going to set the record straight. And this is actually how it is. This is actually how the world works. And, teach them the stuff they're not being taught in school. Try and break that conditioning early. So that way, when they're done with school and they're out, they at least have a better chance than most of the kids that are going to come out of there.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be better prepared.
Critical thinking mind is almost non-existent now.
Yep. It's so rare, it's a superpower. I wish that would.
You're not going to find a movie by Disney Marvel about that. Thanks, Mr. Iger and co.
No kidding.
Superpower is your brain. Superpower is your heart. Superpower is your faith in God and fellow man.
And it's funny how that's all that is being left out these days. That's something they're not teaching you. Actually, I can remember, like, even when I was in school, like those kids that that corrected the teacher, it wasn't a good thing. In fact, the teachers took it as a personal slight that if they ended up getting corrected by the students, as if it was something small, you know, like, you know, your math class, you messed up one number accidentally or something, that's something. But like students who like were smart and seemed to know better than at least the teacher on a certain subject or something, the teacher didn't want to have anything to do with it. No, it was a personal slight to them. How dare these kids correct them or know something that they didn't know?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that extends into university. Undergraduate degrees, fuck that, man. All you have to do is recite whatever they want. You don't have, I remember one of my professors telling me, you have to fucking toe that line. Because, I mean, again, I'm not probably the most conformist. And he said to me, you know, you have to toe the line a little bit until you get in post-secondary or post into master's or PhD. And I said, no, you know, I'm not going to fucking do that. There's no way I'm going to do that. I'm not going to write a paper because somebody tells me, you know, I have to write things about transgender because the class is geared that way. Fuck you, man. I'm going to interpret James Joyce just like it was written. Not some tranny nonsense, you know? And I remember one of my professors saying to me, but she knew kind of right away that I was not one of these people that was going to give on that one. And I said, if you fucking dock me marks on my paper because I don't write your crap, I will fucking have you up for review. Okay, you write your paper however you want to then. But you see, all the rest of the kids piped in garbage, writing papers on trannies from James Joyce. James Joyce most certainly wasn't writing about trannies, I can assure you.
Oh no, like, I mean, they're trying to push that in absolutely everything. Even like this is going back even a while, like, you know, even despite the fact this sort of phenomenon, this whole tranny thing kicked off in the last few years, like seriously kicked off. That was going way farther back. You even look at certain movies like what's it called? Gangs of New York. The amount of trannies that are in that movie is quite shocking, actually.
Yeah, you know, and I'm just using that as analogous, right, of a mindset, right? But absolutely, you know, tranny stuff, I studied it, and it comes back to a certain area. But again, that's probably not something to discuss tonight. But, you know,
we can leave that off this stream. I know we'll be coming back to it soon enough.
They deleted that video off my account. I tried to find it the other night. They didn't tell me. They just deleted it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I'm pretty sure if you went back, you'd find that a significant amount of your videos have been deleted.
It is interesting. It is interesting. I don't really remember, you know, videos I do or anything like that. I try and download them periodically, but who knows, you know. And it is the way that it's supposed to be. I have belief in God. I don't care, you know, if you want to fucking delete something. And I'd rather spend my time researching something else than sitting there downloading stuff and playing with your gimmicky crap. Fuck you. My brain still can store stuff. People always ask me, you know, where do you write stuff down? Where do you do you have files? Do you do this and that? I'm like, not really. I just do it in my head.
I wish I was a little better at that because there was that.
I don't remember my name or anything, but some things I can remember from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I do remember, but there's been plenty of times where even topics that, I heavily researched and like put together a video on or something, I'll find myself having to go back and rewatch something I did just because I can't remember exactly what I was talking about or like what I did. Yeah. I had to do that a few times with there's a video I did about like the data gathering that a lot of political parties did. This was like a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I had to go back, even though I spent like a month researching that and putting it together. I still eventually I forgot about it and had to go back and rewatch my stuff because my brain didn't store it.
No, and it is interesting to go back and rewatch things you make, and see the progression. Periodically, I'll turn something on for a minute or two. I can't really quite stand watching myself, but whatever that is. Duck asks how many strikes I have. How many strikes do you have? Have you had? I'm guessing.
Over the course of like my whole career?
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. Enough. I'll say that. Not enough.
You've got strikes?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple videos pulled down. I got a couple strikes for sure, yeah.
I've had 0 strikes.
Have you actually?
Yeah.
Because
0.
I don't know if they changed it, but for a while there, they were doing it like you got a strike, but if you didn't get another one in a certain time period, then they removed the strike.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way they work, right? I think, what is it? Your strike goes away after how many, 28 days or something?
Something like that, yeah.
But I don't have any strikes because, yeah, I'll come out with pretty heavy stuff, but I don't think any of it's really... I have good citations, and I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky. I've never gotten one. I've got a lot of videos deleted and interstitial. I love getting stuck in.
Oh yeah.
I got another one stuck in interstitial the other day, and yeah, but I don't, or yeah, just that's about it. But then, of course, the echo chamber, right? They just lock you in the echo chamber. So the channel's never going to really grow, which, okay, whatever. There's good people. I still talk to good people. Make good friends like you, or Tara or people in there, right?
Hey, that's the way we got to do it, too. We got to stand together and help each other out. It's the only way that we're going to survive on this platform, and the only way we're going to grow on it is be sharing other people's stuff, so we can expose each other to viewers that aren't aware of each other.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need 7,000 likes. I like that song by somebody. Shit on me for playing it one day. I got one person. It was a song by a Christian rapper named Eshon Burgundy. And he talks about how, yeah, I'm not here for 70,000 likes. I don't fucking care. I don't care. You pay me enough money. And he keeps repeating, never deny, never deny, never deny. Peter, right? I'll never deny. I don't care. No matter how much you keep me down, if I'm broke, whatever, that's fine. That's fine. As long as I have my belief in my Lord and I can say Jesus Christ's name and hold on to that. I don't care what you do to me. I don't care how many people like me. My faith is strong enough. It's a good song. It's a good song.
And that's the thing too, is most people are too concerned about how many people like them that the message gets diluted. And a lot of time it has to do with the money too. It's like, how much money am I making off of my channel or that? So it's important to, as George Carlin put it, it's important not to give a shit, but like, within reason is always his point, which was like, if people hate you, doesn't matter. As long as you sort of stay true to yourself, that's what's really important. But not a lot of people.
I was demonetized a long time ago. I only monetized, funnily enough, just so that I could add Tara as because she couldn't live stream. She couldn't figure out how to live stream. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll add you as an administrator. So then I spent 7,000 hours trying to figure out how to add somebody as an administrator, and the only way I could figure out was you actually monetize the channel. So I just monetized, and I don't even know whose name, what address, just some bullshit. And I think it was making like 78 cents because they would just fucking demonetize every video. And then I got an email a while back that your channel is fully demonetized. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's hurting me. I'm terribly bad.
Wait, you mean they didn't send you your 78-cent check?
No, it went off to somewhere. I don't know whose whose address. I just made something up.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Bilbo Baggins at I don't know, 5827 Parkway.
Well, Mr. Bilbo Baggins just starting to get checks out of nowhere. He's like, hey, it's 78 cents, but it's 78 cents.
I mean, they fucking, they know, it's obvious. Anything is all of it's monitored, everything, telegrams, whatever. It's all. So anybody who thinks that they're escaping any of that, I used to think like that, or like a long time ago, and I was really protective and lots of tech and firewalls and blah blah blah, different routers and bullshit that I was using, and then I realized it doesn't matter. Like, the more I studied on it, like, it's so high level. Like, you go up to ICANN and DNS books and shit like that. That like makes Google look tiny.
Yeah, no, I can imagine for sure. Like, that's kind of the same sort of thing as for a while there. I was trying to avoid, like, them collecting data, but no matter what you do, they're going to be collecting data. I mean, even to an extent, they still can, but VPNs these days are the best way to avoid that. But again, I know there's ways to track it back.
VPNs are. I mean, I have VPNs too, but then I don't even use them. I pay for them. I don't even use them. Plus, they're just all gathering your fucking credit card data and all that bullshit too. Just don't be sending dick pics on the internet. It's probably a good idea.
It always leaks every single time.
Oh, I'm sure there's some out there of me, probably somewhere. But I don't put them up on my Facebook page because I don't have a Facebook page. Well, I do actually. I do. I have a Facebook page. It's called Awoken Goy. And it has a guy with Torah scrolls.
I love it.
Who works for, here, maybe I'll show my Facebook page. It's funny. Nobody follows me. I just use it so that I can look at other people.
Should have named it like Ben Shapiro's brother.
Leaving Brooklyn. Oi, vey.
I love it.
I work at Ruthless Records. Easy E. I'm an investment banker at the Bank of International Settlements. I live in Compton, but I was born in Jerusalem.
Of course you are. Of course
you know it. Hey, it's real.
I think my Facebook says like I live in Atlantis or something like that.
Atlantis.
Something like that.
Facebook. What was it? Who I was trying to tell? What was that? LifeLog.
Yes.
Shut down. Oh well, that's for another day. I think there's some people in here who might not quite be on the same page, but it's really awesome to see the lawsuit starting and people, at least, even though he's not going after the government, he's just going after Wortman, who clearly was a shitbag. But what his motives were, again, were not, I think, just some guy who randomly snapped.
Oh, no. Like, I mean, I think he was sort of this violent, maybe possible psychopath, but that guy was getting resources from certain people, without a doubt.
the equipment.
Equipment, exactly.
That's what they
And
call it. Nuki.
Possibly, not sure, but possibly weapons.
I think that falls into the equipment category.
Well, we can throw it on there, but
They just don't want to say, oh, no, that's a broad term. They said, what is it? How is it? I don't want to misquote it. So it's not exactly verbatim, but it was the uniforms, the car, the equipment. Well, if you said uniforms and car, what does the equipment entail?
well, I've no doubt at least one of it is a police scanner, because I mean, if he's got that well, quote unquote replica of a police car, although it seems pretty legitimate to me, he's definitely got the scanner. And yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm pretty sure there was a few weapons involved for sure. I mean,
yeah, they were either seized, I think, or they were official RCMP issue ones that just happened to go missing, like badges and how much shit. I haven't even looked into how much shit they lose. I'd be really curious. I think actually I did see about the weapons. They have lost a lot of weapons.
lost. Probably sold it.
Well, exactly. It just gets filed under lost RCMP weapons.
Cully's husband was a sub for the RCMP also. Interesting. It's from Aussie Cat.
Brian Lilly. Brian Lilly knows a lot of stuff. He's got stories to tell about Rabbi Media.
I believe he's been pretty quiet so far.
Oh, he is. He's but he knows a lot of stuff. Hundreds of guns go missing from Mounties, military, and other departments. Surprise, surprise. 813 guns lost and stolen from police.
They stole from the RCMP, eh?
Well, that's what they say, right? I know here in Calgary, the armory here got broken into a number of years ago. And they stole a whole bunch of guns from the police. 173 of lost 813, 173 to theft. So, I mean, do you think that's maybe somewhere guns get lost and fall into somebody else's lost hands and found by somebody else?
I think the chances are pretty damn good.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, I won't keep you up much longer. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming out. And I think I'm going to shut it down.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're just past the 3-hour mark.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Shut her
Another
down.
good conversation, man.
Awesome. I always love visiting with you.
Yeah, me too. We always have a good time.
Because people online just think that, you and I visit, sporadically. Like we get on the phone, fucking talk for like 5 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we, despite the fact we're doing this with streams, we talk just as much off the air on the phone. And yeah, I don't think a phone call has ever lasted shorter than 2 hours.
Well, one of these days when this COVID bullshit blows over, I'm going to have to come down to your neck of the woods.
Yeah, do it up.
I don't drink anymore, but I'm sure we can go and find some trouble.
Sounds good to me. I'm sure we can find something
Maybe
to
we
do.
can go stand down on Parliament Hill. There won't be a tick protest that day.
Sounds good. We'll stand there, just flip them off.
All right. Good night.
All
Thanks,
right, take
everybody.
care, Seamus.